about it through Wikipedias and stuff like that. I've tried to read papers on it. It's still a little bit hard for me to grasp, so I would be really interested in learning about it from you, just because I don't understand how, just like how Marxism has anything to do with that cultural aspect of it, how it intersects, how it goes through. Yeah, I'd be really interested in it.
I will show you the way. Be fun. It's the stuff that really turned me on to sociology. Up until
Really?
I was kind of just fucking around.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Dang, are we going? Are we doing this? What's going on?
Let's see. He's live. What's going on? Yeah, so it looks like he's just getting his shit together.
Cool.
He's up and he's got his thing on and he's streaming some music.
I guess I guess in general, I kind of like, I find it uncomfortable that any philosophy that's named after a person, I think it's weird. I think it's fucking weird. Because it kind of like puts them on a pedestal kind of thing. You know what I mean? People like, I get this a lot when I'm talking to like people that are critical of evolution or something like that. Like they're like Darwinian, you're a Darwinian or Darwinist or something. And it's like, fuck Darwin. I don't care about Darwin. I mean, that's okay. Maybe he was right. Maybe he was wrong. But like, it's so much more advanced than that. So I just hate the idea of like defending a position because it's named after a person. I don't know. That's just kind of weird to me.
He just sent me something in Discord. Let's see what's going on.
Abandoned. Waiting for Dave. Wait, we're already in it.
Yeah. Unless he changed the link and didn't tell us. Oh, link coming momentarily.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Isn't it Video Ninja?
Oh, he's creating a new room.
Oh my gosh. These silly bitches. This is why Discord, man. Discord's where all the chat happens. It doesn't make any sense to move out of that. You know what I mean? It doesn't. Why are we complicating it?
Well, we can talk about that on Saturday. Just like from a practical standpoint, if we actually get any good academics on at some point, this is a lot easier, I think, for them than Discord.
VDO, really?
Because all it is like, hey, click this, and they don't have to like.
Permissions and okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, they would want us to use, Zoom.
Oh my god.
Fuck,
Zoom's dead. Zoom's dead. Have you seen the stock? It's dead. It's not, we're not doing Zoom anymore. The stock market has decided Zoom's not a thing. We're all free from Zoom. That was a crazy time. Wow, wasn't that a crazy time when everyone thing was on Zoom? Woo!
Oh god. We're still on Zoom at the university.
Put it in the history books. It's over. Okay. Oh shit, he's giving me the... No, this is the same room. He's in the same room as we are. We're in the same MOS Twitch. We're in the same room. We're in that room. Yeah, he's sharing that view URL, and that's not the good one to share. Is he in there?
I hear him.
Is he here right now?
Or shit.
Okay. Hello. Yeah, this is just you, dude. You're in the same room, but you're like in you're like in your own little side room. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit. All right.
Boomers. Jeez. Oh my god. Okay, all right, I'm gonna exit out of this one. Oh my god. Exit out of that one.
Time.
Although this is a lot faster than
There we go.
Discord, so I
Hello.
don't see that much.
Hello.
100. There we
So,
go.
Greg, this is producer
Audio.
Dave from Echoplex Media.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm Dave.
Hello.
Most
Dave-
of Marcus's audience knows me, but maybe
That's
I don't think
Grimlow
I'm-
down there in the bottom.
Oh, and there's Greg. Damn. All right. Y'all piled in like right away. Let me unscuff here. Just give me a little bit. How's
Everybody was
everybody
so
doing?
excited for this. Obviously, I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, seriously, like Dave, I don't think any of the other ministry folks, aside from Professor Q, have like they know of you, but they don't like know you. Y'all
I,
don't
I
have
was
to
kidding
formally
when I
that.
said they were excited to be here because of me.
Actually, there's a little
They
bit of
should be.
lore I should probably tell everybody. So, here's the lore behind this. So, I only know Marcus because of Dave's show. He had Marcus on one night, and Dave's show over at Echoplex Media, that was like the second Twitch show that I found because I was looking into QAnon at the time. And so that's like basically how I found him, and then from there Grimlow, and then I got invited to do this thing on Thursdays.
Did you find us through the Q Origins people? Because I'm pretty friendly with Alex and Robert.
I can't remember if I was just like searching around, and I've been racking my brain trying to figure out like how the fuck did I get sucked into all this shit.
Well, my channel specifically is like a panic attack, so I don't know. Like, we've got a couple like lawyers and professors. We added a new professor to our crew of regular listeners recently, so I have no idea why any serious people with professional jobs are watching our channel. But you know, it is what it is.
And also, Dave knows more about the intellectual Dollar Tree than anybody I know, and yeah, hands down. Or sorry, the IDW.
The IDW, yeah. The name of my show is The Intellectual Dollar Tree. R.I.P. the breadboard baker, a friend of mine who passed away, actually named the show. So
Oh,
I think
yeah,
he'd be pretty. I think he'd be pretty proud of it because it's. We beat Oh No, Ross and Carrie on the podcast metrics last month. So
Nice.
Fuck yeah.
I was shocked. I was shocked. That was like the goal, kind of, was to get that kind of audience. Unfortunately, we're not very advertiser friendly, so I still have to work during the day. Shucks.
All right, hang on. I've got one more human being to add here, so give me just a moment. Speaking of human beings, I hear some smaller ones in Greg's background.
Sorry.
Oh no, like that wasn't like a fuck you. That was like a haha, small children type of deal. All right, got one more link to put in here, and then we'll be good to go. I actually need to put Greg's frame back. Greg, how's your computer doing? Like that was
we're
a
good.
whole like what, week and a half, 2 weeks.
I was Yeah, it was like a week and a half of problems. I had to focus on my manuscript anyway, so it kind of like lined up perfectly. But
Fair enough.
yeah,
By the way, I promised everyone a surprise, so I might as well get this out of the way.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Wait, are you putting on the surprise?
Oh, yes.
Is it a cape?
beautiful.
Oh. No. There's more.
Boom. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Wow.
And I have a sling ring.
I have no idea what any of this is. Did you join the Illuminati?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it a Freemasons thing or what? Did you join the IDW? Is that what this is?
That they give you a cape and then they just don't let you date anymore, and that's how you get inducted into the intellectual dark web.
Turns out it's just a really fucking dark web, so they give you a light that you carry around at your necklace. Like it's you gotta.
Grandma, you appear to have also one of those like as well. What the fuck?
Oh, yes.
Base.
Also, wait. If Grandma, if you were talking, I couldn't hear you.
That's
Can you say
nice.
something? Can anybody else hear Grandma? Or
No.
No, I cannot.
I can't.
Oh, okay.
I cannot.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't like going fucking insane.
How about now?
Yep.
There we
Yep.
go.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, this-
in like 2015, I went to a convention in Dallas, and a buddy of mine was Doctor Strange, and I was Caecilius in the first movie. So we both got sling rings.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, this was a Halloween costume from a few years ago that I never got to wear because we had that whole fucking pandemic thing happen, and you know.
Oh, they're saying you have 2 times the audio, Graham.
My audio's doubled up.
Yeah.
Oh, I fixed, at least on my end.
Okay. It sounds good.
Yeah,
here.
when you bring people in initially using this service, like the way that I have everybody set it up, you get doubles until you mute something out. So.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I just realized I forgot to mute
Interesting.
LDS, so we're good. Let me move that to the top. Oh,
In a few weeks, I have the Video Ninja guy coming on my channel to talk about this project.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
man, that's
Oh,
so cool.
shit. Really?
Sponsor?
Sponsored. That guy needs a sponsor, actually. If any of you want to sponsor that guy, he built this thing out in his spare time. It's not.
Oh, I was thinking other way around.
Oh, I can't. I don't have any money to sponsor him.
No. Him sponsored you, or
No.
like-
Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
I wish. Well, I wish
Yeah.
he had the money to sponsor me, but yeah, he built it all out in his spare time. He does a Patreon, and he probably isn't
I
being
gotcha.
compensated adequately for his time, considering how good this service is.
I haven't heard of Video Ninja until recently, so it must be a new project.
I think he started it in 2020, like during the pandemic.
Hmm.
That's how a lot of projects started, actually. A lot of,
Yeah,
lot of smart
so-
people were stuck at home with a little bit of free time, you know?
Some people invent calculus. Some people invent Video Ninja. Just
All right, let me just get some descriptor text for Dave here. I need to do this, so that way it's not super stretchy. Cool. All right, and then drop that right up here. All right, everybody ready to get started?
Sure.
yeah.
All right, so I've lost count. I think we're on either 19 or 20. Grumlow, you always count for me because
This would be number 20.
Beautiful.
20. Very nice, the big 2-0. So I think what we had in mind first is to introduce Dave, because I know I've definitely espoused the virtues of Dave to my audience, but we've never like been on this panel together. I've been on Dave's show once. I really need to go back. It's been
Twice, haven't you?
long.
Didn't you come on once late at night, like on a
Oh,
on
yeah,
a
no,
lark,
it's
and
been
then you
twice.
came on?
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
You came on the show proper at like 7.
Yeah, you're right. It's been twice, but Dave's never been here, so we thought we'd make that happen. And for anybody who's really not familiar with Dave at Echoplex, Dave, really just, I guess, really introduce yourself. Like, tell everybody what it is you do in terms of your stream and your online presence.
Yeah, I'll just keep it quick. Except for Tuesday nights, we kind of focus on extremism and conspiracy theories. We have a show about the intellectual Dollar Tree. It's actually a pretty popular podcast. Or a show about the intellectual dark web. It's a pretty popular podcast. It's called the Intellectual Dollar Tree. I do that with my co-host HK, who will probably be making an appearance in your chat tonight. His channel's Selfweed. But yeah, you can just follow us. We sometimes I DJ late at night too. Like if I like drink too much of my vodka, and then I'm like, well, I'd like to stay up a little longer, but I shouldn't be talking into a microphone anymore. Then I'll like spin house music or break beats or whatever. And so, but yeah, the focus of the channel is generally extremism, conspiracy theories, and I guess cult-like groups, especially to the extent that they exist online as cults, which gets a little complicated.
That's a bit of an understatement. So I think like what I had in mind for tonight, and I think some of the other folks, you could easily like ad-lib this, so there's really no need for prep. But a lot of what we kind of have in terms of overlap is we all cover a lot of various chuds. We talk about the typical intellectual dark web players, the Jordan Petersons, the Ben Shapiros, et cetera, et cetera. But then as COVID hit especially, a lot of these science-flavored chuds have kind of come out of the woodwork too. And Dave, I think you put it really well. There's a lot of academic window dressing.
I stole that from Alex from the Q Origins project. He said that on my show, and I stole that from him. Just gotta credit where credit's due.
Hey, well, fair enough. Thank you for the proper attribution. But that's a really good term, and I think that kind of is really what I want us to kind of dig into to some extent. In a broad sense, I think what we could talk about tonight is really when anybody's like going out and about online or like consuming content, especially as like the YouTube algorithm pushes it to them. What do we have to be on the lookout for as it pertains to chud spotting, identifying a chud, what constitutes a chud, and then maybe like creating some criteria or some like heuristics, some decision making to sort of undergo when you're looking at shit online. And then later on we can maybe like apply that to some folks and see like how well this really works and stacks up. And I know Professor Hugh, like you approach this from a very academic sense. Greg and I, like, we dig through a lot of overt scientific material and we like see some people saying some weird shit. Remo, in the political sphere, there's certainly no shortage of people with credentials saying shit and wilding out. Like, I kind of wanted to dig into like common denominators here. Like, what is the commonality between all of these people? So I think with that, I'll just throw it to anybody who really wants to go first. There's no real structure to this, so this is really free form discussion. So feel free to just have at it.
Well, Dave, why don't you tell the folks like what the IDW is, because there may be some people out there that don't know what the IDW is, and then like how did you stumble, like what started your show basically?
Oh, mine?
Yeah, the
so the
Dollar Tree. Yeah.
So the IDW, first of all, you must take them all very seriously. That's like the main thing they all have in common is they hate being mocked. But if you go back, there's a famous Barry Weiss article, and basically everybody who took the weird photo in front of the plant, we can call those people the IDW, just to make it real easy. I think the article's name is something like the Renegade Thinkers of the IDW or whatever.
The cool
and it's like,
kids, philosophers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's renegades like Sam Harris, who's right. Full on renegade thinker Sam Harris.
Yeah, really breaking new ground.
But what they generally, I think the main thing they have in common, my take, is just an aversion to any kind of criticism that doesn't take them seriously as a genius. If any of them are going to bring in criticism, it would probably start with a curtsy, possibly a bow. Some kind of maybe you have to bust out a monocle to look at them to criticize them. But it's the thing. Yeah, the main thing I think they all have in common is just an aversion to harsh or kind of funny criticism about themselves. So, and they're supposed to be like this sort of they started out claiming they were this group of sort of lefties and right-leaning people who were having these difficult discussions. But it turned out that every time they all talked, they all agreed about everything. And then, just as far as my show about the intellectual dark web, the honest truth is the women who come on my show on Sunday just started firing all the people from the intellectual dark web off of that show and didn't want to hear any more of their bullshit. And so we had to start a new show if we wanted to talk about them. Otherwise, all the women on my network would have jumped ship. So that's how it started. And you know, there's like kind of layers, right? Like the core is like the Weinsteins. Sam Harris claims that he left, but whatever. You know, what did they say? You can take the party out of the girl, but you can't take the girl. You can take the girl out of the party, but you can't take the party out of the girl. Well, you could take Sam out of the IDW, but you can't take IDW out of Sam. And but it's him, the Weinsteins, to some extent, Michael Shermer, Barry Weiss, I guess. Ben Shapiro is supposed to be one of them. Dave Rubin is supposed to be one of them, though none of those people talk to Dave Rubin anymore. And but then there's like hangers on, and there's like circles outside of them of hangers on, like David Fuller. Well, mostly David Fuller. We've been making a lot of fun of David Fuller lately. The people at Killette, I would say, are like maybe a circle outside of the main people inside the IDW. And it's like anything else where there's going to be people who are espousing some of the ideas, people who don't even know that they're spreading stuff from this particular, I don't know, disinformation group or whatever. Oh, the IDW, it stands for Intellectual Dark Web. Sorry, Lane Bear, I should have opened with that. I'm actually not really good at giving like a 30,000 foot view of something. It gets harder and harder to do that when you've been examining something more and more closely, I guess.
Yep.
So whatever you asked me to do, I just did poorly. Follow my channel.
So, you know, I'm going to kind of just ask a dumb question that I already know the answer to, but just to kind of keep the ball rolling. So why should we care? I mean, these are just ideas, right? And what ideas are they espousing, first off? And then, like, why the hell should we care? Because, you know, ideas are harmless, right?
If that's for me, what idea they're espousing is whatever you think they said, they didn't actually say that. That's really important, actually. But there's a lot of like tolerance in this space for like race and IQ stuff. That's one of the big things that Sam Harris has been mad that people have been criticizing him about. There's a lot of conspiracism, especially around COVID, and it's each of these people is espousing something different. I mean, you have Eric Weinstein, who thinks he unified physics by himself in his spare time while he wasn't doing his venture capitalist job. I mean, they're espousing all kinds of whack stuff.
That's one of the weirdest ones to me.
Yeah, they're espousing all kinds of whack stuff that if they weren't like rich, like if they weren't like all at least like upper middle class, people would call them crazy, not eccentric. And so they all kind of have their pet peeves. Brett Weinstein thinks that the entirety of like medical science is wrong and that he's figured it out from a wooden room. They're all, espousing different things. Dave Rubin, like, for a while was claiming to be the last liberal or whatever. And so there isn't really one like thing that they're focused on except for each other and kind of raising each other's platforms and, I don't know, making money on YouTube, I think.
So, yeah, I mean, the thing that I think is the most interesting about these individuals, all of them, is they've managed to get quite a big fucking crowdsourced following that pays them a lot of money. I mean, I think Jordan Peterson was on a show once and said he makes like $70,000 off Patreon alone.
Yeah, they quit. A couple of them quit Patreon. Who's got kicked off? I think they kicked off Baked Alaska, and so a couple of them quit Patreon. But there's subscription stuff, sure. Yeah, I think he collects money through like a Subscribe Star, or maybe he's using that locals.com or whatever as a front end for his we'll say money collecting scheme. Is all.
I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Professor Q?
No, go ahead.
So maybe I'd like to, because I don't know. There's two of you here who I don't know. Gremlo is one of you, and I'm sorry, I forgot the other fellow's name.
So that's Greg, also known as
Hello.
the peer review.
Greg, okay. What is your level of familiarity with the intellectual dark web? Like, just either of you.
Ooh, Greg, you want to take that one first?
I mean, obviously, I'd heard about them. I probably the person I know the most is Sam Harris. I still can listen to his podcast, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, that's like the person that I probably like know the best. The other people I don't, like Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein. They're kind of like people that have been pushed at me or everyone as someone that's like famous for getting canceled, so now they're on a worldwide tour telling people that they were canceled, which is kind of weird to me.
I love that.
It's like what? Like, okay, that's weird. So I feel like it's kind of forced, and so I guess I see them as kind of like this backlash or this perceived backlash to the ability to kind of like say and respond to things in the media, like with an honest or whatever they're saying. I feel like they're trying to be maybe, whether they're grifting or not, or being honest with their views, I guess is a fair question. But maybe Dave Rubin, I think that he probably is a little bit more grifty, but I would say that, like, I guess Dawkins, if we're including him, and Sam Harris, I think is a little bit more intellectually or more honest. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of it's just kind of like a group that I feel like people. The problem I feel like with the IDW label is it's kind of just like a catch-all for a lot of people who maybe you don't agree with, but it's like, is it okay for them to say that stuff, or that? I think that's more of the question.
Okay, and
Yeah.
Gremlo.
So, I guess you kind of brushed on that, Greg, and you as well, Echoplex, that it's difficult to kind of say who is part of it, and I kind of look at it as like who is in the orbit of the main characters and who is trying to get into the orbit. So when I think of people who are trying to get into the orbit of the IDW, I think of like PragerU social media influencers, people who are like 22-year-olds that dropped out of like Cornell whenever they realized that it was too gay, and then wanted to get a career in media. Well, the crazy thing is, like, all of these people are failed media operatives. Ben Shapiro wanted to be a screenwriter, couldn't do that because Hollywood was
Have you ever
against
read any of his screenplays or his
Dude,
fiction?
his book, what is it, like True Allegiance or something?
That's the best. Oh my
it's
god,
incredible.
the
I
way
love
he
it.
the way he describes like the strong male characters in that book. It's like, come on, dude, you
It's
have a
very
crush on this.
homoerotic.
You have a crush on this imaginary person. Ben.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of the mirror self. What was it, Professor Q? There's like a psychological or
So I think I know
the
what
looking
you're
glass
talking
self,
about.
I think
mean,
it
it's
is.
it's really you're just projecting like what
Yeah.
he like, wants himself to be, but
Right.
either can't or
Right.
whatever.
taller than 5'4", that kind of stuff. So all of them want to be in media. So you often find that a lot of like the people who are trying to get into their orbit are also that. So
Yeah.
being on Twitch and being kind of a fan of what I like to call like the Chud cinematic universe. So there's at least currently, so like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Candace Owens, Dennis Prager. Like, these are probably the main characters of the IDW Chud cinematic universe. But then you've got crazier characters who are in the fringes, who are somewhat of political leaders now. Baked Alaska is one of them, but even though he's about to go to jail. Nick Fuentes is probably the biggest one, who I'm currently trying to figure out how to combat his stuff because it's leaking into this space now. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where I found them, but I have always had kind of a morbid fascination with them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like I'll be talking a little bit for my co-host too, because if we're going to be talking about it, the IDW, we're definitely talking about our show. Me and HK are definitely both former new atheists.
Okay, so you came out of like the skeptic community.
To some extent, yeah, but at different times, he and I both kind of jumped ship and sort of definitely softened our position on not religion necessarily, but religious people as we started to see the way some of the famous atheists started to behave, we were like, well, actually, you know what? I'd rather hang out with a nice Catholic than with Michael Shermer. Now that we think about it, or and so
is that the guy that's Skeptic Magazine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's things I'd say about him on my channel that I'm reluctant to say about him on Marcus's channel. So,
hey, no, as long as you're not breaking Twitch TOS, have at it.
Well, there's him and this David Silverman guy both did this thing where they got credibly accused of sexual assault, and they went running to people like Stefan Molyneux and Baked Alaska and stuff to have their say about, you know, what had happened and how they were being unfairly treated. And it's like, well, you know, if I was accused of something like that and I didn't do it, I wouldn't just go running to reactionaries to try to like plead my case, right? I would do anything else. And it's just things like that we noticed over time that sort of started to push us in, like, just away from caring so much about atheism and even about calling oneself a skeptic, because it's just the brand has been pretty tarnished by a bunch of like kind of shitty rich white guys, and it's, you know, that's kind of how we came into this, and you know, that's kind of shines through in everything we do. And we do catch a lot of criticism. I catch a lot of criticism from other anti-IDW folks because our tone is our tone, and we talk a lot of trash on these people personally and not just about the things they're saying, because at some point you have to, at least in my view, you start to have to make a character assessment if somebody is a public figure, and a lot of people get mad at me for that, and I don't mind. I'm happy for the criticism.
That's so interesting that you said that. Like, you know, one of the things that pisses me off about like talking about this stuff is it's okay to joke, it's okay to meme, it's okay to have fucking fun. Like, you can still be a serious intellectual and not have to have a stick up your ass, which is another thing the IDW has. Like, I think they're anyway.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not calling, you know, I think I'm the only non-academic here. I'm the only person who's not either in school or a professor, teacher, or anything like that. And I'm real hesitant to even think of myself as like an intellectual or whatever. I think there's, you know, there's good things about intellectualism and whatever, but I think it's like let us down. Like in the last 5 or 10 years, like intellectualism as like a intellectualism TM or whatever is just kind of let society down in a lot of ways, and it's almost like used as like a hammer against people who have different political views in some ways, and that's not really all that smart, I don't think. So,
what do you mean by let us down? Can you expand on that?
Well, I think, you know, the IDW is a pretty good example of that. A lot of people, when they go looking for intellectuals, first of all, they find partisans, and, you know, I'm a partisan too, but I'm not out there talking about being an intellectual. And so I just think that as a brand, it's not that great right now, and I think it could be better, but I don't think I'm going to be the one to fix it. So,
like, I agree that it seems to be like a tarnished brand, but I hate that it is. My wife keeps saying, like, you can't say that, but I want to be elite, you know, like I want to learn as much as I can about the subjects that I know, so that I can be, you know, in the well-learned like space on that. Does that make me elite? I guess it does on the subject, right? Like, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that there's a huge opening here just to say that, like, not take it to like the American exceptionalism stuff, but like to steal that idea of like wanting to better yourself and wanting to fix problems and wanting to better people's material conditions. And yeah, like speak to that a little bit more, but I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to articulate it.
No, I mean, that's, you know, it's, I think some version of that sometimes too. Maybe not coming from the same place as you are, but we all like to know what the heck we're talking about, you know, like when we're talking, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think anti-intellectualism has done far more harm than intellectualism TM has done, right? Like we have climate change denial, and that's just purely anti-intellectual, and it's driven mostly by, media talking heads that work for oil companies or who are on the take in some way or another. And it's, kind of like it appeals to some people's anti-intellectual like streak or people's anti-intellectual feelings. And so it's not like there's not a place for intellectuals. It just seems like the ones who are taking up the most space aren't really doing good, in my opinion.
The loudest voices are always the ones that get heard.
They kind of have to, though, especially when you're talking about all the people that you were naming before, like Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and stuff. I mean, they don't have any policy prescriptions on what's actually happening. They don't have any ideas on like how to actually fix anything. It's all just like their assessment and their kind of like subjective opinion on these things, and they kind of hide behind that fake intellectual or grifting intellectual viewpoint in order to kind of like get validity, it feels like, because they all live in California. It's like a bunch of them live in California, which is weird.
LA specifically, right?
Yeah. So it's like they're not like these people that are living their values. They're definitely, getting benefit from the media world, from being exposed and having being in California, talking to people on their shows and all that kind of stuff. So it just seems very dishonest by them.
Yeah, that's, and I think that there is a difference between someone like Candace Owens or what we would generally call like the PragerU set and the kind of core of the IDW. The core of the IDW probably would generally reject at least the tone that is being taken, I think, by a lot of the PragerU types. Maybe not the content, not the payload or whatever, but certainly the tone. They don't like it because it appears partisan, because it is. And I think that, I don't see Sam Harris, for example, having Candace Owens on his show anytime soon,
Isn't Sam Harris kind of an irrelevant Andy now, though? Because I don't hear anybody within the right talking about Sam Harris.
And he still has his podcast, and I mean, he's still doing that thing.
His podcast is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
If you go into the iTunes rankings or whatever, I forget what category his is in. I think it might be science communication.
Mm-hmm.
He's easily top 5.
That's crazy because he's not. Because when I'm looking at like popular actors within the political right, I see someone like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk. They're leading the charge as far as like the populist movement within the right. They're the figureheads that everyone's going to as like for guidance.
Well, for Sam Harris, let's be clear here. The way in which I would consider him right leaning is culture war stuff only.
Right.
He's on the record as being, for universal basic income, for single payer healthcare, for higher taxes on the rich, for massive redistribution of wealth, and that kind of stuff. So I don't think he's
insanely anti-Trump. Like entire episodes where he was just on Trump for hours.
Right. So I don't think I don't think that most of the right wing, like Twitter sphere or whatever is gonna be sharing him a lot. I think what you're gonna end up like the people who I think like him are going to be people who sort of feel like they're being left behind by the culture war, and that's sort of who he's talking to, and that's a pretty big group of people. I'm 45 years old, and sometimes I don't understand what the kids are talking about, right? I mean, but that's actually okay because you can just ask, right?
Yeah.
You just be like, well, what's this about? And then you can either even if you don't accept it or whatever, you're like, well, this person's 20, so maybe I'll let this one go. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I believe different things now than I did when I was 20. So I think it's a get off my lawn thing for people who I don't know, maybe subscribe to the National Geographic or something.
There's another element to this that I've been thinking quite a bit about. In the 60s, you had a massive influx of people going to university, getting their PhDs, entering academia, and we haven't really had a mass kind of mobilization. And so what I've seen happen since I went to grad school is it's becoming more and more elite, and the people, there's less and less working class people or people from like lower class positions that are getting into science, and so a lot of people look a hell of a lot like the IDW in many ways.
So, I mean, is it safe to say then that like a lot of the IDW figures come from very like elite, rich backgrounds?
You know who Sam Harris's mom was?
I don't actually.
She was like a producer for the Golden Girls. His brother is on one of the big 3 networks as like a host and interviewer. He is certainly from an elite family. I don't know the rest of them, but if any of them did come from nothing, they would not stop talking about it. I guarantee it.
Well, Ben Shapiro's family is like a well-known Hollywood family. Again, wanted to be a screenwriter. Michael Knowles wanted to be an actor. Steven Crowder wanted to be a comedian, failed at that. Actually had a short show on Fox News. I mean, they all seem to kind of have their roots in like failing to get into Hollywood.
And by the way, there's no shame in that, right? There's a ton of like regular people out there who wanted to be actors who just didn't they couldn't cut it, or they just for whatever reason. And there's no problem with that. Everybody can't be a great actor like Mel Gibson. Oh wait, that's a bad example.
It is weird how they've managed. It is weird how they've managed to kind of like create jobs out of being quote unquote like canceled. Like I said, if you're on a world tour, you can't really say that you're not being allowed to get your voice out. It's just like it doesn't.
Culture like doesn't exist though.
CJ Oracle in the chat is sort of bouncing off of what Chris was saying about the first generation college graduate. They felt very like alienated. Maybe I'm just inferring maybe when they first got there, or maybe the whole time.
I mean, there's still times when I feel like the guys have seen me not at my worst in their chats when I've been at conferences, because I hang around a group of interesting Marxists, but they're all from working class backgrounds, and I avoid people. I mean, I can think of a bunch of specific people who I avoid because they are really good at making you feel stupid, and that they're like somebody who ought to be worshipped, frankly.
And I think when you get into the upper echelons of anything, I think that it's going to be a struggle to not end up doing that, right? I can imagine myself, if I was important in some way, I would probably be the biggest asshole on the planet, right? Like, so it's just hard not to drink your own Kool-Aid once you start getting to the top of some institution. I imagine it's just maybe human nature is a bad way to say it, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's in our nature. Once we're at the top of something, and we become worse and worse people.
It's like within your interest to maintain that position, right?
I mean, maybe. I think, I think that there are some people that are like that. I don't know. I guess my closest friends, like we were actually just talking about that. It's like I'm only mean to my close friends. That's my goal. Like I don't want to be mean to like a random person, but my friends, like, yeah, dude, like that experiment sucks. Like, why wouldn't you put that control in there? You know nothing now. You just completely wasted your time. Like that's how, like how honest I want them to be. With me or me with them, and I don't know, people that just constantly put like yes people around them. It's just weird to me. I don't know. I don't get it. Like I want pushback. I want feedback.
Well, and we've seen that phenomena destroy lives of celebrities, right? Like Michael Jackson is a good example of just having too many yes people around, and it like destroyed his life. And so, it is good. And I'm in San Jose-ish, Silicon Valley, and I've met some people who are, kind of higher up in companies and stuff, and you know a lot about them by who they hang out with and how they interact with them, right? If somebody shows up with like a little entourage and they're like in the center of the little thing, like it's an episode of the show Entourage, that's the worst person that just showed up at this cocktail party. You don't even, doesn't matter how famous or rich they are, just ignore them, right? But then if you see some, you know who someone is, but they show up maybe alone or just with their partner, and they're kind of they're super casual, and then they're just a different kind of person. And I think I think it's people deal with becoming popular in different ways.
So let me, I guess, like, I don't want to like completely change the subject, but
I'll go ahead. It's your show.
Sort of like in this similar vein of like, this, because Gray, you were really alluding to how toxic in the culture like academia really is, and we're kind of having some discourse and chat about it right now. Like, does that toxic culture kind of breed the IDW types? The you're not good enough to be here, or the gatekeeping that happens frequently in academia. If people are deemed to be like not good enough, does that start their intellectual dark web like supervillain arc, like it's a fucking comic book?
Maybe. I mean,
it's an example that comes to mind about that.
Like, I think there's two things. There's like the ivory tower gatekeeping aspect of academia that definitely does exist, and I totally agree. And I felt it myself, dude. Like, I was doing CRISPR experiments in 2014, 2015, and like they rejected me. I got 35 rejection letters over 3 years for getting in a PhD program. I got my 36th one accepted. We had to take out a car loan on the car that I owned. I had to give it back and get a loan out for money so that I could go and keep applying for grad schools. It felt like what the hell is this gatekeeping ivory tower crap? Like not respecting who I was and all that kind of stuff. And I was very mad about that. I felt very gate kept. But at the same time, I also feel like science is not personal. Like it can feel very personal when you're doing an experiment and someone's like just reaming into someone, like saying that you don't have, like you're in the wrong direction here. You don't know you don't know what you think you know. You need to, reassess. And I mean, we were at lab meeting today and it ran an hour long because like I was basically telling them like that the molecular biology and the genetics of the experiment doesn't line up with what the goal of the project was. And it's like, I feel bad, but it's like at the same time, like, dang man, like we're talking science here, not your ability to like be a person. If they personally couldn't take that critique and they were like, what, this is too much, I can't take criticism, then like maybe science isn't for them, because that kind of like, constructive feedback is at the essence of the scientific process. It's the peer review. That's what the whole point of it is. That's why it's the most important part. So I don't know. I think you're right in that it kind of gives the environment. It gives academia is kind of that niche that people can grab onto and kind of fester maybe the academic or academic dark web. Oh my God, I almost said that. That's a Freudian slip there.
Well, I mean, that kind of gets us into like the academic window dressing part of the conversation, right? Because like what came into your head was like academic dark web. A lot of the folks that are like very central to that Barry Weiss piece, like they were either current or former academics. Jordan Peterson came from academia, and other very prominent members of the IDW have credentials. I think, as Gremla put it, in the greater like Chud cinematic universe, there are certainly people who don't necessarily come from that background. But some of the quote unquote OGs, Christina Hoff Summers walked around saying, "I have a PhD. You should listen to me about all of this. I'm PragerU." Like they literally make themselves out to be like alternate academia for like right wingers or people who are dissatisfied with the current state of academia and want alternate thought. So I don't know. Maybe like. Greg, I don't know if you really have any like additional commentary on that point, but it kind of feels. I think it feels like academia sets people up to weaponize their degrees like that.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're going to look for intellectuals, then I feel like just in our culture and stuff, then academia is kind of like the whole ivory tower mentality of like, this is where the the intelligence lies and that kind of stuff. Rightly or wrongly, I think that's what people sometimes agreed to, maybe years ago or decades ago. Maybe this is kind of like the whole point of the the idea that these ideas and the ivory tower is crumbling kind of thing. Personally, I want to like take fire to the ivory tower, burn it down, and remove the gates, and let people like see this stuff, and that's the democratizing of the intellectualism and the academic process and all that kind of stuff. It's not like this ivory tower that it exists, but it shouldn't. Yeah.
It doesn't have to. I think is what you mean.
Exactly.
It's also strange because like the layman views, like the layman conservative views academia as like inherently corrupt system that churns out like liberal SJW, avocado toast eaters, and
let me sound off.
Do they though? I think they're coping, man. Like, let's be real. Like, I really do.
No, they are 100%.
No, because they use all the technology. They use everything from that, and it's not coming from those states, and it's not coming from their culture, and it's not coming from their ideologies. So that's the whole point of these people that are grifting on the right into these spaces and saying like, oh no, we're actually in with these guys too. They value it. They do value it. It's just a different type of intellectualism, I think.
So with Jordan Peterson and Brett Weinstein, they kind of get to have it both ways, right? Because they're credentialed. They're both not too far out from having been at a university. And so they definitely get to have it both ways. They get to tell you that these universities are these elite institutions that are out to get you, but also to some degree and in different ways, they'll claim to have been at like the upper echelons of these systems. And it's just it's a pretty nifty trick. Like if you don't know what that is, that's a pretty nifty trick.
Ben Shapiro went to Harvard Law.
Ben Shapiro went to Harvard. Yeah, I didn't even mention him. But he was never he never did any like work as I don't think he ever did any work teaching, or at least if he ever did, it wasn't a big part of his life because he's a good deal younger than the rest of them too. So,
are you kidding me? If students would have fucking chased him out, oh my god. But I've found actually academia is pretty conservative. Not necessarily like far right conservative, but conservative in like Jordan Peterson's kind of ideas at one time were pretty popular. And so I can kind of like, in the world of like social theory and philosophy of science, I can kind of see where he's like the last remnants of these kind of race scientist folks, these kind of people who have ideas that when you start peeling back the layers on them, you realize, oh shit, that's a bunch of racist bullshit that you're talking about, or misogynistic bullshit that you're trying to dress up as intellectual or pseudo intellectual.
Yeah, I really wish I could remember exactly the way Alex from Q Origins kind of put it when he was talking about the academic window dressing, because I just remember kind of being blown away. The kid's like 22 and he just like blew my mind on my show with like 3 sentences, and I just really wish I remembered what he said because it was so good. And I just really wish I remembered what he said. If y'all, I can maybe drop his Twitter in the chat if you guys aren't following him. He's doing like good research into like extremism and whatnot. Maybe he'll remember what he said if you like nice tweet at him.
It's hard to like listen to. I obviously I hear them all the time in the media, but I never know like what's okay. So like you recognize the problem, okay, but what's the next step? I never understand like what they're going for, what the end point is. I understand that they want to say their thing and they want to get their voice out there in the media, and they kind of like need that oxygen. They need people talking about them, but then it's like, that's what I don't understand. Like, where are they? What's the goal of this? Like, or their ideologies? Or I understand that they're trying to just, maybe it's just like free speech, I guess, but a lot of these like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens and stuff, they're so reactionary that I don't understand what their viewpoints are.
I always tell people, and Echoplex, maybe you've thought of this before too, that their rhetoric is always like the nugget of truth, right? Where it's like there's a little bit of truth, like, hey, yeah, there is like problems with our economy, there are like social ills that exist within our society. But they always come back to the conclusion that the thing that will fix it is more of the problem.
Maybe more of the problem, but their solutions oftentimes seem like they're not from 50 years ago, but sometimes they seem like they're from like 20 years ago in some ways, right? They're like a early 2000s version of like a kind of standard liberal position on a lot of matters. And I think a lot of things have changed since the early 2000s.
Like I know Ben Shapiro's answer to how to fix inflation is more straight marriage. I just know that. That's what I know. That's his idea.
Like if they agree that like, hey, we do have like economic problems and like workers do have issues, but they're also like mega capitalists. Well, their solution is like always free market. So whatever the problem is, capitalism.
Yeah, it's not free enough.
Their solution is more capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think our capitalism cup in the United States doth overflow, and so I think like there's not a lot of.
Well, it's like the next logical conclusion is just neo-feudalism. Which
That's funny you should mention that. I think I forget who we were listening to on the RIDW show, and the person was basically describing feudalism, and I wish I could remember who it was. It was like it had to be like at least 6 months ago, but I just remember being like, wait a minute. Or maybe they're describing monarchy. I forget what system of government they were describing, but it was like an old one. It wasn't a modern system of government.
Oh, it never is.
I mean, the bad thing is at least the fucking the fucking peasants were almost treated better than we are in many respects.
Next, at least the lords would like actually provide. They provide food and shelter and housing, and the ability to at least like have a full work day where shit didn't immediately kill you because they were the peasants were valuable assets. Like they were taken care of to such an extent that they could wake up the next day and continue to go to work. But that's like not the case currently.
Well, I mean, they're just like child work rights and all that kind of stuff too. Right in there, there's a little.
Certainly, some things have gotten better, Marcus.
That goddamn labor movement.
I guess my kids' hands are really small, so they could really get into the motherboards and make those.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my!
Greg, you have small children. Don't weaponize them like this.
Is that who fixed your computer, by the way, Greg?
Oh,
dude, I had to install some fans. It's tough.
The mention of the motherboard is kind of interesting too, because I do think like a lot of Silicon Valley culture is at play here too. It's like this sort of grind culture. I'm definitely guilty of having done that in my younger years, being proud to work 70 hours a week at like a startup and stuff. So I think that, and I think in a way we've done that to ourselves. That's been like glorified through the tech boom, and I don't think it was necessarily like pushed by like the elites and the rich folks. I think it was pushed by a lot of engineers and systems administrators and those kinds. The basically the working class here in Silicon Valley sort of pushed that mythos of the always on the grind, and so it's not all the fault of the elites. We can look in the mirror a little bit. At least I can sometimes and see like what like the culture that I came up in has done, and how it has contributed to a lot of our problems.
I mean, same here. Like if you ask any non-tenured, even tenured faculty for that matter, but if you ask any young starting assistant professor, they'll tell you like they wake up, they go to work, and they stop and clock out at like 1, 2 a.m. Because it's just the system we're under is just, and I'm not talking about higher ed, I'm just talking like in general. We have this fucked up system where it's about squeezing every last goddamn drop they can out of you. Whether it's working at McDonald's or higher ed. I mean, at least that's the way it feels to me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that to me to a great extent as well, and I think we've talked about that a fair amount in terms of the commodification of academia as it pertains to a variety of different fields. And we kind of touched on that earlier too, with how like really intrinsically conservative a lot of academia feels, even if the right paints us as a bunch of communists who are here to brainwash your children the moment they turn 18. I kind of wish it was like that, but it's not like that at all. We're just churning out fucking cogs in the machine to go plug them in at a company to generate money for somebody. But even within that machine of generating cogs for the machine as a whole, there's so many issues. So I guess I think we've covered that pretty in depth. I think kind of where I want to go next to spice this up a little bit is sort of the conspiracy angle. And I know Greg and I have talked about a couple of science flavored conspiracy theorists who happen to have degrees and whatnot, but I guess how does this academic window dressing issue kind of apply to the more insane shit that's being said? The microchips in the vaccines, the government's coming to get you type stuff that a lot of the far right really falls for and espouses constantly. How I guess do academics really play a role at all in legitimizing that? Are there prominent figures that say this kind of shit all the time? What comes to mind when I bring that up?
So you'll see somebody like a Paul Joseph Watson, and he'll be showing you the headlines, right, of basically the headline in the first paragraph of what appears to be a scientific article, even if it's not a paper, it's an article written about a series of papers or whatever. And I think that a lot of the conspiracists will do this. Sometimes they won't even show you where the thing is from, but the headline looks sciencey, and so that's 100% academic window dressing. They're acting
Tim Pool does that.
Who?
Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, Tim Pool's a really good example of that. The Quartering does it to some extent too, but his academic articles are about a movie, so it's a little bit different because he's not pretending
his
to
COVID
talk
stuff
about.
would do that especially, but he would always say, "I don't want to get into the nitty gritty." When the article would start to look at things that counter his narrative.
I don't want to finish that sentence.
Think about Alex Jones's desk and all the goddamn papers on it.
We got the documents.
He had to have read them all. It's kind of I'm not going to read it to you because I read it already and I already told you what the important parts were, so just believe me kind of thing. It's so weird.
Don't worry, I read the Cliff Notes.
And I mean,
Trust me, bro.
And the elephant in the wooden room here is Brett Weinstein is the example of academic window dressing and conspiracism. He's the best example we have. It is this measured professorial tone that he probably learned as a professor so that he could get his ideas across and be understood. And then he's just lying to you, just straight up lying to you most of the time. And that's a little more insidious than, that's harder to spot maybe than somebody like an Alex Jones or even a Tim Pool.
Oh, for sure. And especially with everything with COVID, he's he went from just oh, look at this guy that's just, isn't he cute, to oh man, this guy is dangerously crazy now. And even his own brother is yo, you gotta chill, man. So, yeah.
I mean, his own brother doesn't have much room to talk on that, though.
But that just goes to show that the anti-vax stuff, he's gone so insane that even his own grifting brother is whoa, dude, you gotta tone it back. That's nuts.
A little crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, anyone who would not get their child medical treatment because they basically want to test out their theory about, breaking limbs, that's crazy shit.
Yeah, I don't know if you know about that in their book.
No, what is this?
They talk, and I don't know. Do you remember it? Do you remember pretty well what the story was, Chris? Because I my brain is so scrambled from watching so much of these people.
No shit. That's why I had to stop for a while.
I mean, the story was it was.
I think they fell off a horse or something, and they broke his arm. And
so I don't know.
The kid broke their
arm? How
arm?
many kids do they have? Do they have 2 or 3 kids? I know they have at least 2, because that's how they ran this fucking experiment. But child 1 broke their arm, and this is before they decided to issue all of medical science, and so that child got their arm put in a cast, which is standard medical care. And they were oh well, it didn't really move quite right, and they were reporting that their child who got the arm casted allegedly was it's still kind of bugging me, and it's not really as mobile as it used to be, which is kind of a feature of when you break your fucking arm, you don't necessarily get back to 100% right away. But then a second child of theirs also fell from a high place and broke an arm, and they're oh yes, now we're in our arc of eschewing all science. This is not for us. No cast for the child. We're just going to let it heal
Oh my God.
naturally and try and make them do exercise with a broken arm, explicitly using the muscles around the broken arm to like keep it mobile.
What?
And allegedly they
It's
claimed
nerve damage,
that it
dude.
was. Yeah.
No!
They claimed it worked better than a cast.
So the problem here, right, is this is a claim that we can't do any checking on it, and a lot of
Right.
conspiracy theorists will use their medical history or the medical history of their children to like buttress their point. But I can't actually find out if that's what happened to their kid, and if I went looking into their kid's medical records, that would be awful creepy, actually, right? So we don't even know if this is how it all went down. They're just making the claim, and the anti-vaxxers will do the same thing. They'll be like, "Oh, my kid was vaccine injured," and you're like, "Well, I don't know if that's true or not." You know,
There is some like crazy medical claims being just given like by all these people. Jordan Peterson and their
the apple
his
cider,
daughter,
oh my God.
like eating all meat. They got like lupus that was get cured or some shit. They're like, just like the amount of shit that you're just like, man, I'm really got to take this on face value. What you're saying right here, you know, you're just like, it's so weird.
And it's like if it's one of these people who has a platform or whatever, it's kind of fine to go after them. But then you run into other people who don't have a platform and are saying this stuff, and you don't know if they're telling the truth or not. And like, do you really like want to look like an asshole just, you know, going after some random person who may very well have one of those rare cases where their kid was injured by a vaccine? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's super handy. And I see the people in the chat bringing up Jordan Peterson. Like, we don't know that they're eating only meat. They probably aren't because they're still alive.
Oh, I think he's ride or die for that.
Then how is he still alive? Like, after all this time, wouldn't you?
Have you seen him lately? He looks like he's.
Okay, fair
He
enough.
looks
He looks like a
shit.
slab of
I
uncooked
don't
meat.
think
That's
Michaela Peterson does it one bit. I think she like.
He looks like Emperor Palpatine. Jesus.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Michaela eats meat around him, and then purges afterwards, and then eats like a big
Jesus.
old bowl of like straight oats and chia.
Holy shit.
gnarly.
I think she's like full vegan.
And so, like,
Going the other way.
Real
Yeah.
meat for dad, fake meat for
That's
me.
so funny.
Yeah,
you're gonna get sued for slander, man.
Dude.
man, you don't
joking.
like put your dad in a coma in Siberia and then go to discotheques with your fiance. unless
Medically
you're on some
induced
crazy
coma. That was
That story. My girl, the media wench who co-hosts with me, she says there's a 5% chance that whole story is bullshit, and they were just hiding out in a basement in Canada the whole time.
shit. Who, Michaela and
Yeah,
her fiance, or Michaela and Jordan?
Jordan Peterson. She's
Oh,
like
I mean,
most,
yeah, it's entirely possible that he made it all up, but
I mean,
I
she's-
definitely think he had a benzo addiction.
yeah.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure,
she's-
yeah.
She was mostly kidding about it, but it's kind of a funny thing to think about that you could
Yeah.
you could make this whole story up
guess.
as part
It's a
of your
good
as part of your
headcanon,
grid.
though. I like it.
It's well, it adds so much mystique or whatever, you know. It's so man, these people, it's so. That's what I'm saying. Their whole idea is just to keep stealing the media oxygen out of the room, so you got to cover them and stuff. And it's like, so these elaborate stories and stuff just add to that. I mean, for not making it in Hollywood or whatever, they sure know how to make this stuff up. You know, they know how to make the stories or whatever up. I don't know, or steal
They
the
have
media
the lore.
attention.
They got good lore.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird.
Yeah, like Jordan Peterson's issue with night terrors when he was a child because he would dream of nuclear holocaust, and then there's a story, and I think it was Maps of Meaning, that, and this is very graphic, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time. He told a story about how
Don't tell that story. I don't like that story. I'm going to throw up. I already know which story you're
Okay,
going to tell.
okay. He had weird dreams about his grandmother.
Yeah, look up if anybody doesn't know what he's talking about. Just Google Jordan Peterson grandmother, and you'll find the passage
Yeah.
from his reason. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but
No,
there's just
no. It's a disgusting story, and that this man took the time to write this very, like,
oh, he wrote it very detailed. Yeah, that's the
it was
problem.
too detailed for him to include.
Let's be real. It wasn't his grandmother was a lobster, and he's
Marcus
embarrassed.
looked
And he changed it afterwards.
No.
No, it's some weird shit, man. If you don't know
Yeah.
what it is, maybe just do something nice for your own brain and don't look it up. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Too late.
So
Too
funny.
So
late.
here's what I see like on the ground. So like I know a lot of you maybe you guys don't know. Fuck, I don't know. But I gained like a shit ton of weight over the pandemic, and I've been working with like trainers to take it off and stuff. And so I've
Good for you,
been
man.
in this kind of like thank you. This gym space. You can actually go back and look at the VODs from when we first started this, and I've lost like a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But,
Nice, good shit.
Anyway, like I've been in that kind of like gym space, so I get to hear all the crazy bro science shit, and you can almost trace it straight back to these IDW figures, and it's scary because like this one guy I saw, he was like fasting for like 7 days because of something he heard on fucking Joe Rogan. Like,
Oh, come on.
you know,
Nice.
What? How does that even happen? What does Joe Rogan say? What? Don't eat for a week and you'll lose
I mean,
weight.
I think it had to do with like intermittent fasting, and they had someone on like a Jordan Peterson type, or maybe Jordan Peterson himself, and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna fucking try this and see what happens," and just like the extreme amount of like self-harm that people are doing because these pseudo intellectuals are espousing stuff that is fucking crazy shit,
Yeah,
Yeah,
fitness is kind of like its own thing though too, where it's like people are constantly looking for the right solution and the thing that's going to work for them, and it doesn't necessarily work like that.
Frost from Bullshido does such a good job on that stuff. I don't know if people here are familiar. Like, he just does such a good job talking about, the sort of like the inverse of like the yoga to conspiracy pipeline is, well, not even the inverse. It's the same kind of pipeline. It's the gym guy to conspiracism pipeline. And
I think the like self-help to fitness to manosphere pipeline is very short, because a lot of it has to do with like rise and grind, hustle culture, self-improvement, finding like a guru that you can go to for your advice. We always have these kind of obsessions that we want to find like the priest who knows like all of the secret potions that will like cure our ailments, whatever it is, loneliness, alienation, obesity, whatever it is. Like, we're always looking for that. And the fitness to self-help people, to like even I would go as far as to say like authoritarian fascist pipeline is very short, because I mean, we just did it as an experiment on my stream one time. There's like a self-help guy who runs like a family channel, and then we watched a little bit of his content, and within 2 days of kind of following that pipeline, we're getting recommended Sargon of Akkad stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it might just have something to do with the culture here in Silicon Valley. I unfortunately feel like that we could have exported something great, and instead we exported the YouTube pipeline that gets a lot of people like caught up. And I think like maybe the people who work at that company, aren't maybe as susceptible to that kind of stuff, so their eyes weren't as open to it, just because they're here in the Bay Area. It's super liberal here, and so they just aren't like, they're as aware of it, and they're also not the targets of some of these reactionaries, because these companies are awful white, and it's so they just are kind of blind to it. And then when it's pointed out to their executives or whatever, their executives will just like do something stupid, like take down a bunch of channels and then go tell Business Insider that, well, we're good boys and girls now. And so I think that I think that my culture here has kind of a lot to answer for as far as that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, if you go to some self-help thing, maybe you're going there because you might be somebody who needs to talk to a therapist or whatever, and you don't have the money, or you don't know that that's what you should be doing because maybe you're a man and you think that that's not a manly thing to do, which is silly. But then you're, like you said, you end up on some video, maybe 3 weeks later talking about people's jawlines or something, and it's
Right.
like, oh, how'd I get here?
Have you heard Felix from Chapo's T-shirt theory?
No. What's that?
That's all of these IDW self-help right-wing people, even like people who don't fall into like the IDW area, but all of these influencers that we're seeing right now kind of pop up, little micro celebrities, all of it, the end game is selling T-shirts. Everybody wants merch, and everybody wants, you know, an audience that will buy their merch.
I have T-shirts.
Yeah, but your
There you go.
T-shirts are fucking amazing.
I mean, I have some T-shirts too.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to sell T-shirts.
I mean, merch is a thing, and I definitely think that there is a lacking. I guess I wouldn't say it's lacking, but it's just kind of like a. You know, I've been watching and catching up like on Fresh and Fit and all that kind of stuff, like that.
Oh,
them
God.
as an idea, like all the drama around them, and all that kind of stuff, and you know, there's just like this. Like a succubus or like a siren song to the rocks, where it's just like it's so convenient and easy and quick, but like when reality, like people don't want to hear, like it's just fucking tough, dude. It's just you got to do this. You got to work on yourself. Maybe not all women are assholes. You got to like try to improve yourself a little bit. Like, oh no, like you know, or stuff like that. It's just not like an easy pill like to swallow, and people don't want to like face that truth sometimes, so they kind of just lash out, and it's hard to have nuanced discussions about this stuff because you know everyone's in a different spot. Everyone is at their different level of their own self progression. So you know what might work for some person might not work for someone else, a different age, a different life stage. But I do feel like, you know, there's some validity. Like I listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast for a little bit when I needed to like need some new ideas, trying to figure out some things in my own life, trying to work through some things. And so I don't listen to it still, but I feel like it helped me during that time.
Well, this is so strange. It feels like my entire stream prepped me for this today. We were talking about the kind of the things that lead people down these pipelines, because I kind of went through the skeptic space as well, militant atheist stuff. And I think what people at the core of these audiences are looking for is validation. For one, they feel alienated, usually young men or incels, you know, young teenagers or people in their early 20s who can't really figure out what their purpose in life is. But secondarily, it's justification for the biases that they already have, because confronting those biases means that you could be wrong, and that's difficult for, you know, people to come to terms with.
Totally
Oh my
agree.
god, I might have been wrong this whole fucking time. The problem's really me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or well, it's not I mean, maybe it's not that cut and dry, but the problems are some of the problems is some of my behavior, right? Would be, I think, a better way to talk about it. You know, you mentioned the pipeline. It's funny. I was on a panel with if anybody knows Caleb Kane, Faraday Speaks. There's a New York Times article about him and the alt-right pipeline. I was on a panel with him just the other night, and that's actually it. I don't even know.
Are you all right now?
Just
Is that
clout
it?
chasing.
He was that good.
All right.
Like,
Go ahead.
this pipeline is like a known entity, but it still works, and I think that's interesting. There've been countless like news, like articles ranging from blog posts in, you know, niche publications to, you know, Data and Society put something out, the New York Times has put something out, and it just seems like it doesn't matter how much it's explained to people and how much it's, you know, how much light gets shined on it, it still works.
Yeah. So long as the algorithm's purpose is to foment people's adversarial nature on these platforms, then this pipeline for any kind of ideology is going to still exist. Happens for left people, I think, because of the content pipeline's incentivization for interactions. You'll see more right-wing stuff, but it certainly happens on the left as well for like anti-capitalist content.
Yeah, I feel like because the permanence of the internet, you really can't. there isn't like an incentive to like change, because might have to be like reevaluating some of your previous positions. I feel like between I was like 16 and 25 or maybe even 30, I was like a different person every year, and it's a good thing. I was reevaluating things, thinking about things differently. And I feel like maybe if I spent a lot of that time on the internet and kind of like making video content and defending my position and it's me versus the world kind of mentality, it kind of like helps solidify people into these positions where it's kind of dangerous, where it's like, no, man, maybe just like, maybe you feel like that's correct and that's fine, but maybe be willing to change your mind, rethink some things going forward. That's okay.
Yeah, I try not to be that way and rigid and stuff, but I imagine there's ways in which I am. We probably all are. And we probably, those things are going to be the things that we're going to be blinded to. We're going to be blind about those things because we're rigid about them. So we're not going to be able to recognize it in ourselves as much as maybe other people will. So that's, I think, where if you're creating content or whatever, that's where your community needs to be. Like, you need to be attracting good people into your community and sort of ejecting shitty people and people who are looking for a guru or like an internet dad or whatever. And to the extent that you can do that, you should. And that's a little bit different than people who are like always there and liking your content and like generally agree with your takes or whatever.
Don't
It's just
listen
like
to him, Chad. I will be your daddy.
Oh.
Yeah. And I mean, internet dad
Yeah.
Stefan Molyneux is like the perfect example of somebody who was like an internet dad. And you just, I just think that like once you're out of elementary school, maybe people need to abandon the idea of even having heroes, unless it's like your dad, because your dad worked 2 jobs to put you through college or something. That hero's good there, right? That person did something for you specifically, but I think having heroes in adulthood tends to be fairly problematic.
It's so crazy. My wife and I were just talking about this. Like, a lot of our, like, Spider-Man isn't like just Spider-Man anymore. It's like Spidey and friends, and there's like a team of Spidey people, and they all like work together to solve problems and stuff. And I've noticed like this trend where, especially in kids entertainment, it's like teams. It's teams working together to solve problems. Everyone has their own thing that they're good at. Everyone has, I mean, we've had this, forever since when I was a kid too, but I'm just saying I feel like I see it even more. There's less of the hero complex, like the savior coming in, and more of like, hey, we solve problems together as a team. We work together to fix problems. And I feel like that's just such a cool framing of like, in how to teach like kids, especially, that it's like, yeah, people asking for help isn't a bad thing. Having help with a friend is a good thing, and reaching out and asking for help is good. So,
yeah, it's you can't know everything yourself, and you're not going to solve all your problems yourself. And I don't, you have kids, so you're seeing this stuff. I don't see much kids content unless I'm like watching some idiot adult complaining about it. And so, but if that's a trend in kids content, I agree, that's really good.
I think it's also. I was actually starting to flesh out a sociology of comic books and superheroes course, and like one of the frameworks within that like whole literature is about how comics and films and everything reflects society. And I just think the problems we're facing are not simple problems anymore. So I think some of that shift is going to be natural. We need to work together, right? Perhaps.
Grumble, I actually want to circle back to something you said earlier about Tim Pool. Can you maybe, I guess, like elaborate a little bit more on? I think you said like Tim Pool is really great at doing something, and I'm like kind of blanking on what that something was.
Oh, Tim Pool is really good about taking scientific literature, making it fit his narrative, and you see it on his videos where the article starts to lead into something that's contradicting his narrative, and then he's like, let's shift focus for a moment, and then go talk about something else.
But isn't that that's messed up too, because he's got a big audience, and that would be the interesting part, actually, if you ask me, if he were to keep going.
Well, it's a nuanced conversation, and I feel like nuance is kind of like with the clips and videos, like nowadays, it's like you don't want to seem people. You don't want to seem like you're not taking things seriously. You know, like this is what it is, and this is what's happening. You know, you saw it a lot with like Jimmy Dore's stuff, where Jimmy Dore would like, or the producer or someone, I don't know who was, but he was giving them clips and like editing out like the paragraph where it's like, in some studies we, however, we sometimes see this, and then they'll just start with after that, however, and then just use that paragraph, and it's like, see, this is a publication saying that it's anti-vaccine, and they're hiding this from you. But it's like in a whole article about how it's pro-vaccine, it's okay, but there's like 3 sentences that they're taken out of context, and that's what it is. And it's just like, oh, it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
But he fired that producer who doesn't have a name and we've never heard speak on his show.
Exactly.
I've never even heard him mentioned before.
On the show.
What if the producer was coming from inside of Jimmy's brain? What if he was the producer?
I have to figure that a lot of these people are doing the cutting and stuff themselves, because if they're doing this show for a living and they want to make as much money as possible, why wouldn't they do that stuff themselves? That's not difficult work, you know?
Oh, you can do my editing for me if you want.
No, I don't edit. But one of the things that Greg, what you said about like all this stuff is very serious, that's like one of the maybe if we can kind of circle back to the academic window dressing and kind of get back, everything having to be very serious all the time is definitely one of the things about academic window dressing. You know, they you know, if you're like, this stuff isn't fun. They're not people doing the academic window dressing. Their content doesn't tend to focus at all on being fun in any sort of meaningful way. And I think that's sort of does a disservice to learning in some ways, because if you're going to learn something, it's probably fun sometimes to learn new things, but also just the like dour seriousness of stuff is just one of the main features of this academic window dressing, is that it just can't be fun.
I think there's also the element of it, and not to kind of like harp on my point earlier, but a lot of it is reinforcing those biases, and the bias is that, you know, there's some kind of plot. You know, in Tim Pool's case, a civil war is happening because a cultural Marxist takeover is happening, and our institutions are overrun with CRT. Well, that's not meant to inform you, that's meant to confirm things you already believe. So it's not going to be informative. I don't think their purpose is to educate as conservatives, because educating would mean, you know, looking at your things you think are true and then assessing to see if they really are.
Huh. Harp away on that point. That's a pretty good one, so feel free to harp on that.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, Professor Q doesn't like me using Umberto Eco, but I like using it because it's easy to communicate to people. So Umberto Eco's like 14 points of fascism. One of them is like there has to be an obsession with a plot for fascist ideology, and there is always some kind of plot. Doesn't matter where it's coming from.
It's usually coming from certain,
certain people who, yeah. We know like where it's coming from, but they're always very inconsistent with their messaging on the who, right? The they. But another part of it is if you're looking at like the self-help stuff, there has to be an appeal to a mythologized past. Men aren't men anymore. You hear a lot of this in like Jordan Peterson stuff. You know, what happened to men? Tim Pool. It's the Tim Pool's biggest thing is like obsession with the plot. You know, that they're silencing us. Free speech is being taken away. And I don't know anyone who can with full honesty say that they go to these places to learn something new, to be informed on something they didn't think they knew about.
Exactly.
Huh.
I totally agree.
I mean, we could just run down the 14 points of fascism each one at a time and just be like, okay, who appeals to this one the most? And we could, like, okay, Matt Walsh. Well, that's machismo and weaponry, right?
Right, which is really weird. It's just odd. It's an odd juxtaposition. Matt
It
Walsh
always
versus
is. It's a contradiction.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because he's like, and there's nothing wrong with it. He's not that guy, right? He's not the machismo and weapons guy. He's clearly the brunch in a BMW guy.
Exactly. Very, I don't know if we would call him like used car salesman type vibes, but I can't figure out what it is about Matt Walsh that, like, what his vibe is. Because I know it's something. I just don't know how to put it to words.
So just real quick about Matt Walsh. He tried to sick his following on another streamer we know, Justin, and it didn't work because those people are all like not very funny. And so they tried to come after Justin and make fun of him, and it just didn't work because they were bad at it.
Yeah.
And,
Didn't they like mass report his channel too?
yeah, his channel got taken. That was the only thing they were able to do because they just say stuff, and he's like, "You guys are idiots. Like, could you try being funny if you're going to come make fun of me? Like, what is wrong? You know?" And yeah, Matt Walsh, I agree with you that it boggles my mind actually that he's popular. I think he kind of rode Ben's coattails up though.
I don't think a lot of it. So there's an interesting IDW orbiter that just came up in the last 2 months. Have you heard of Brett Cooper?
No, who's that?
Brett Cooper is an Daily Wire contributor who has a show called The Comment Section with Brett Cooper. Now, TPUSA, which is kind of like within the same orbit as Daily Wire, right? Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, they're good buddies. TPUSA has said at their conventions, like, who are the influencers online that we want to model our rhetoric and our approaches to bring in more conservatives is. Logan Paul was one of them. Mr. Beast was another one. And Hasanabi. Now, if you probably know who Hassan is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brett Cooper got hired out, failed out of Stanford, shocker, wanted to be an actress, went to Los Angeles, couldn't get any gigs, got hired by Daily Wire to run a show called The Comment Section with Brett Cooper, where she is in a studio, but it's made to look like my setup. Her entire videos, it looks like she's live. It looks like she's got like Beats by Dre headphones. She's doing bisexual sitting. She's like got the Blue Yeti microphone, but she's all this veneer of intellectualism or edginess, whatever you want to call it, is all manufactured because it's at the Daily Wire studio. And she's a very good example of how they completely manufacture all of their stuff, because she was nobody until she got hired by Daily Wire, and within 2 months, 400,000 subscribers. They usually bought these things. She's getting anywhere from 25 to 300,000 views on videos. It's insane.
Yeah, I just looked her up. I don't think we've run any of her content, but I've seen her before. And you're right. I assumed she was a live streamer.
Yeah, you would assume so. But if you're looking at her Instagram, scroll down.
What's
just
the name
a
again?
little bit.
Brett Cooper.
Brett Cooper is her name, but her show is called The Comment Section with Brett Cooper.
Yeah, this is a femme Ben Shapiro.
Yes, she does look like feminized Ben Shapiro. But yeah, if you scroll down a little bit on her Instagram, you'll see a photo of her at the studio. And there's like producers there, there's like catering in the background. It's just a little corner. But if you never do any kind of digging to see like who is this person, where do they come from, you would think that this person is like streaming on Twitch or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I had a bunch of money, I'd just reproduce the corner behind me in a big warehouse too, though.
Same. I would do my regular streaming here, and then I would have an identical setup at a studio where I can just like go in on a Saturday, film a bunch of clips that are really good, that are pre-written, and then I'll just use those for all of my various socials.
So the orbiter that I have spent the most time on and have caught like a lot of heat from people for the the uncouth way in which I've gone after him. I don't know if do people here know who David Fuller is? Rebel Wisdom.
David
That
Fuller.
sounds really familiar.
If you have a clip, post it in the Ministry of Science guest chat, and I'll pull it up.
Hold on.
Actually, did we? I'm not sure we actually gave
There's no
Dave the
such thing
permissions for the Discord.
There's no such thing as a clip of him. He calls things a film, but it's just a heavily edited interview where he like he agrees with his guest. He came out of like the BBC. I think he was a reporter before. It might be interesting for people to look him up, because the reason I go after him is
David Fuller?
Yeah. David Fuller of Rebel Wisdom. You'll find a couple David Fullers. You might recognize him by face. But he does this thing that he calls sense making. And the best that I can determine is that he thinks that if you like work something through in your mind, that you can almost replace empiricism and expertise by engaging in sense making.
You're talking
my
about
God.
praxeology.
That's like, oh, and he charges people $550 for a series of Zoom calls about sense making because he's a grifter.
Oh my God. You just gave me content for tomorrow.
Here, I actually wrote an article
I'm on their
about him.
website right now.
Yeah, I wrote an article about him. If you,
Yeah.
I'll put it in the Twitch chat so that other people can take a look. Where'd it go?
These two guys don't look like they would be. Well, they do and they don't look like they would be IDW guys. They look like, or IDW orbiters. They look like silicon guys living at a. Oh God, what do they call those houses where they like pitch ideas and then they pay rent so that like the owner of the house gets like equity in their
Like an
project?
incubator.
An incubator. They look like they came fresh out of an incubator.
Yeah. Oh, and the other orbiter I don't like is that Lex Friedman guy. God, I can't stand him.
Oh, I hate that fucker.
That guy blocks a lot of people. He's like, it's all about the love, and it's just like, get out of here. Go back to doing your robotic shit. You're good at that.
It's such
Yeah,
a
that's a
vast-
STEM lord. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's such a vast universe because I've never heard of some of these guys because my current investigations into the far right have been people who have proximity to like Nick Fuentes and America First, because America First has proximity to like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other reactionaries within public office. And there's like all kinds of dudes: Elijah Schaefer, Vincent James, this guy that I was in a thing the other day with, that his name's like Big Tech. He like asked if we wanted to get Jewish people out of the media. It was very weird.
That was so fucked up. I saw that clip you put on Twitter. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So these people are definitely more like in the Peter Thiel orbit of the right, I think. Like most of these IDW people, they're more in that sort of space. Especially like David Fuller. I don't know if they're buddies or whatever, but that's sort of the space that these people occupy. That's like the very powerful person who kind of shares a lot of this ideology. And I don't know, Eric Weinstein works for Peter Thiel, and I don't know to like what extent maybe Eric and Brett are being propped up by Peter Thiel. That would just be speculation, but you know,
Yeah.
the guy certainly has an agenda, and he's willing to spend his money to push it, and he certainly has a lot of money. So
They are always paid.
Not recently, since Palantir just absolutely has gone down the shitter. I think it's at like, oh no, it's 7.
Are you talking about that crypto that went down?
No, that's Luna.
Palantir is like a data surveillance company essentially.
Yeah, getting a bunch of DoD contracts and that kind of stuff, data science kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's Peter Thiel's.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
That guy's. Again, I'm of a certain age, and this valley used to be a lot smaller, and I do not like Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel's the guy with the blood boy, right?
Yeah. Well, he's most famous for
Libertarian Island, made out of shipping containers in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
I mean, I wish they would have.
That's one of my favorite ones. They went. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Pirates would have come and taken all their shit in a week.
Yeah.
I'd have joined a pirate ship just to go steal some shit from Peter Thiel if they'd done that. So he's most famous for like taking down Gawker via Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah.
About that.
Oh.
So there was a publication back in the day. It was a Gawker publication, but it was called Valleywag, and it was a tabloid about Silicon Valley. And he got mad when they published an article about him saying that, you know, he was a gay man supporting all these anti-gay politicians. He had claimed that they had outed him at the time, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no, like all the gay people in Silicon Valley, we already knew that you were gay. Like this was not a secret. He just didn't like that they were publishing about him, period. And I think he was trying to maybe dishonestly use identity politics, to be perfectly honest, to try to make it about something that it wasn't. And then he took out Gawker.
Yeah, it's like I don't. It's so weird, like Silicon Valley and stuff. Like it's so hard. You know, I can, like as a scientist, like I can respect like the engineering and everything that went into like making the computers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that was something that's really cool and such a big moment forward, like for humans in general, not just you know in history, like the computers and the internet. I feel like that's things completely changed after the invention of the internet, in my opinion. But like that doesn't mean just because the internet exists now doesn't mean that like Facebook and Zuckerberg was in an interview saying that like Facebook has more power now than nations, because we actually are in multiple nations and we have tons of power in each of those. So we're actually like a super nation kind of thing. And I'm like, bro, like if you think yourself that you guys have that much power and you're not like trying to rein it in or stop that or something, like that is really, it's like a weird level of narcissism. It's just really shocking to me.
You know, I went from, you know, I got out of college in the early 2000s, and it was after the first crash, but there was still a lot of optimism that we were gonna do all these great things for the world, and you know, that was when like open source started to really kind of hit its stride, where the web servers were all switching over to Linux, and it was this really hopeful time for a lot of people, myself included. And then watching what this industry has done to the culture of San Jose is disgusting. I mean, there's no art here anymore. This stuff all gets stuffed. It all gets like shoved to the side, and it's all business.
It's gross, man. Like, have you seen the there's like a map of all the poop sightings in San Francisco, and you're just like, oh my
poop map.
gosh,
Yep,
it's insane, and you're just like, man, like it's exactly what happens when you incentivize like millionaires and billionaires, and those people aren't a part of the community, is the community starts just absolutely falling through. There's no floorboard now. You know what I mean? There's no like need for public libraries that have like good programs that are the hub of the community. That we go like 3 times a week to the public library because there's awesome kids stuff, and it's like, well, if everyone's like 2 hours away from the freaking public library in San Francisco, like nobody's gonna go there, and nobody that's a billionaire is gonna like live there. They're vacation homing or whatever, and it's like I'm actually really worried, especially since Apple is creating their second hub down in San Diego now, and all the work from home Silicon Valley people are now like moving down to San Diego, and it's like I'm actually really worried San Diego is going to be the Silicon Valley 2.0.
That's funny. My co-host is a software engineer who moved down from Silicon Valley to San Diego to start his business.
There you go. It's a lot of people doing it.
HK's, what do they say? HK is one of the good ones, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
sure
okay.
So like, it's crazy, man. I mean, there already was like a bunch of biotechs down there, and it's kind of like this, you know, now even like Apple is, you know, recruiting biologists, data scientists and stuff, and you're like, whoa, what? They're doing like biology data, like data mining? It's like, yeah, because now they have like their watch data, so they're trying to see what biology research they can do with it, and it's like, wow.
You know, about Silicon Valley, one of my friends, he actually owns a restaurant. He's a really smart guy. What he said that he saw is that a lot of money came in, which was good for him, especially because he runs like a nice restaurant. But he was saying that these companies, in their desire to hire every engineer they get their hands on, were bringing all these people from all over the country to the Bay Area, and none of these people really had an appreciation for like the culture of the Bay Area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And over time, they destroyed the culture of the Bay Area. Nobody used to call San Jose Man Jose, like in this, like 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But now you go out to like the anywhere but the gay club basically, and there's no women there because all these bros are there.
Dude, I
And
mean, you
it's
go like I used to go surfing, in Bird Rock.
Oh, I never would have guessed.
Surfing and like in La Jolla, like there's nobody. La Jolla's a fucking ghost town, and it's like because all of the houses are all vacation homes, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like nobody lives here. There's no like community. There's no kids in the street. There's nobody like barbecuing. There's no, you can't. There's no community there, and it's just like because nobody fucking lives here, and it's so dead, and it's like, oh man, it's really weird too because they're all like $2, $3, $4 million homes, and they're just like sitting on that. Like it's like, oh, it blows my mind.
Maybe we talk about the lack of community and like especially like what you fear is happening in going to happen in San Diego. What if that kind of feeds into this sort of guru culture where people aren't connected so much to their community anymore, and so they seek out community online, and instead of finding, I don't know, a place like Marcus's space or MySpace, like not MySpace, although Tom never did none of this stuff to anybody. Tom didn't ruin the entire metro area, all right?
Tom didn't.
But then, young men end up in these online communities that are just full of young men, and they're, they kind of eject men who aren't like them or young women who aren't like them. And so that could be part of how all this happens, is like the phenomena you're afraid of happening in San Jose that I think are in San Diego that definitely already happened in San Jose and in San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area more broadly. It might be feeding into this stuff where people are looking for this kind of intellectual stimulus from places, and they're not getting it at their local bar or whatever because there's not a, like in San Jose, it's all white guys out at the bars. And so you're not getting like this mix of people where all these new interesting ideas are coming out, and people are, meeting different people, which is what the point of the Bay Area was supposed to have been since the time I was a kid. And so they look for intellectual stimulation online, and if they're unlucky, they end up in, one of these spaces, these manosphere adjacent spaces with some guru kind of at the top. And, Eric Weinstein's spaces are a good example of this, except every time he builds any kind of community, he gets mad and takes his ball and goes home because somebody there has the nerve to question one thing he says or whatever. But I think that, it definitely feeds into it. And
I agree.
And I just wish that some of these people would be a little more responsible about the way that their community operates, and all the way up to Sam Harris, the very popular people. He's not too concerned with what kind of people are following him, and he was surprised actually that a large number of his followers voted for Trump. Yep,
exactly. Yeah, I remember that. I mean, it's this fixation with greed and gluttony over community, and I think it's the death of any like local community or city, man. When people are worried about where their money isn't staying there. The money's leaving and going in whatever index fund or offshore account or whatever they can get. It's not staying in that community.
Right. Say what you want about gangster rap, but they told you to spend your money in the hood, right? So
that's true.
But I mean, I'm lucky. I live outside of San Jose in a small city. I mean, it's on all my tweets. I live in a city called Campbell, and there is actually it's 6 blocks basically, and downtown here is cracking. There's
Awesome.
all different kinds of people out. A lot of women are out, more women probably than men are out here, because they probably all came from San Jose because there's a couple good wine bars, and maybe not all the tech bros here. But the thing about it is, it's not like it's, I pay 20% more for my rent than I would probably pay if I lived like further east, like in San Jose proper, on like the other side of town. And so it's like now, like that the ability to have any kind of community is like being gatekept just by economics. And so you could convince yourself, if you just never left Campbell, that Silicon Valley was still a thriving place with art and music and people mixing with different people than each other. But that's just because everybody here is of a slightly higher socioeconomic class, has extra money to spend, and so we go out all the time because it's the thing to do. And so you could fool yourself into believing the opposite of what I believe about the South Bay, you know?
I had a crazy experience. Like, God, it was like 7 years ago now. Like in San Diego, in California, we have rolling brownouts, like just like in the summer and stuff like that. And because people are running their AC, so then we run out of electricity basically. So we had like, it was like a full 24 hours where there was no electricity, and the first hour, we were just like in our apartment and we're like, this is so hot, like none of our fans are going, and like, let's just get outside. It's a beautiful summer day. Let's get outside. And just like the entire community was just like emerging into the streets, and everyone's like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? Like, I haven't seen you in forever. Hey, how's it going? Like, oh, what's up? Like, you're meeting your neighbors for the first time sometimes. You're connecting with people. There's like people playing football in the streets and stuff, and you're like, dude, this is awesome. Like, it went from this whole like, dude, we're not gonna have like power for a while, this sucks, to like, dude, we actually have like a community and a thriving like people coming together and bonding. Like, I thought we should do it like every year. Like, I had so much fun. It was such a cool experience.
Yeah, the thing with that, like if you did that when the power was on, some of the same very people maybe who you met outside would be trying to call the cops because you were playing football in the street. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, man.
But yeah, that's a cool story. We haven't had long power outages here, at least not due to brownouts. But we did have like some kind of a piece of equipment went and everybody's internet was out, and we had a similar experience because everybody on the street, and before fiber was installed here, everybody was on Comcast, and nobody had internet for like a day and a half. So people went outside and like met their neighbors, like because nobody's cable TV was working, and it was a similar thing. I met some of the neighbors that I hadn't met before, but like I'm actually really lucky. Not only do I have great neighbors, they're also really nosy. So that's really good. So if somebody were to try to break into my apartment or whatever, one of my nosy neighbors would notice it immediately.
There you go.
But most people don't, like in apartment buildings. I have friends that don't know their neighbors, and it's crazy. And if you don't know your neighbors, you're going to find community somewhere.
True.
Ain't gentrification grand?
No.
I don't know, the city I live in fell out of the sky gentrified, so.
Oh, well.
All right, let me kind of bring things back into one of the goals I had for this conversation. And before I kind of go down the list of things, I'll guess make one more call for it. While we've been talking, what I've been kind of doing in the background is trying to really like extract a list of points about some of our favorite IDW/online chud figures. To kind of almost compile like a list of criteria, almost to like assign like a chud score to any particular online content creator.
Beautiful.
So
Yes.
before
Such
I
a
like
STEM
read
lord,
down the
Marcus.
list-
You're such a
Nerd.
No, he's over here
Yes.
doing social science. I love it.
our fucking stenographer. Look at this.
but before I like list what I've got compiled here, is there anything else that like comes to mind for all of you that kind of like fits that mold of like, oh yeah, if this person's doing that, you're like immediately suspicious, or you like kind of think of them a little funny?
If you make it a tree, if you make it a tree of how they're connected to one another, Marcus, it's a phylochudnomics.
Yeah,
Oh
Thank
God.
you. Thank
that's
you.
definitely something. I think once you have kind of memorized dog whistles, or your brain's been flattened by them enough, once people start doing them, you immediately take, oh, okay, let's sniff this out. Let's see how where this dog whistle goes. And after enough of their content consumption, you're just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's a chud.
I think one of the things that, if you haven't put it down, it's tribalism. It's like knowing who the out group is like not knowing who your in group is so much as the other way that tribalism goes is definitely knowing who the out group is like one of the key features and one of the things that I keep an eye out for.
Yeah, so when you say like knowing who the out group is that like constantly like otherizing some group of people?
Yeah, or making them your enemy, or saying that this group of people is trying to stop you from learning the truth. I
mean, is that like?
could,
it just sounds like populism to me, though. Do you think that like it's inherently populist, like these views that they have?
I don't think there's such a thing as right-wing populists.
How so?
Well, it's only fascism, right? What does a right-wing populist say?
Yeah, they would
I
say,
mean, it's like us versus them without the religious aspect or like maybe the authoritarian bent or something. I can't think of anyone that's like that. But I think
Well, like a left-wing populist says, well, because of financial interest, the billionaire class seeks to dismantle labor unions so that you have as little say within your labor and you're not represented enough. The right-wing populist, quote unquote, says there is a cabal of interdimensional vampire pedophiles that is out here trying to indoctrinate your children into become. That's just brain rot. That's conspiracy theories.
It's the satanic panic, basically.
Yeah,
I agree with you. It's brain rot, but it's fucking popular.
The problem is like I agree with you, but I think that's right to what's going on right now. But I guess in my mind, like there could be a theoretical right-wing populist that isn't fascist, but I don't know who that. Like I can't think of anyone that's just talking about that as just as populism.
Yeah, it's like
I see what you're saying.
If you are someone who fancies themselves a right-wing populist, but you are not, like, you're not talking about deregulating the market and giving more power to the like parents or school choice without coupling that with some kind of conspiracism, you're a very rare breed. There's always going to be like a layer of conspiracy theory with these people.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the chatter is right. It's like the George W. Bush a la like 2002.
Right. Well, I mean, even
But
George W. Bush. It's like I've said before, Donald Trump's like big thing that he did is not like, build the wall or anything. It's just making people comfortable with being Republicans. Those underlying attitudes already existed within the Republican voter base, but normalizing them, making people comfortable with going out and being like, hell yeah, that's right, I am a white identitarian. Well, that's a whole other beast.
Do you think that they had those views all along, or do you think that like Trump helped bring them even farther to those positions?
Yeah, I would say that they've always had that. Christian dominionism is a very powerful force within the U.S. And I think Trump made people comfortable with saying that. It's not like leftist theory or anything where we give people like the proper way to contextualize the ennui that they feel. It's just saying, hey, it's okay to feel the way you feel. You're right. There is a plot to disenfranchise Christians. Christians are under attack in this country. Your rights are being taken away by the Democratic Party. It's confirmation bias. That's it. It's not.
So there's a great study on this, and I don't know. Maybe if I get this thing I want to do over the summer on critical theory up, maybe we can explore it. But it's called The Authoritarian Personality, and it's a kind of classic study of what it says, authoritarianism, and it says it was a study of the U.S. in the 1950s, and basically what they found was most people have fascist tendencies in them. It's just some people get kind of, I'm kind of simplifying here, but they basically get activated, and most people will go along with it, sadly enough, if there's a strong pull in that direction.
Yeah.
Inside of you, there are two wolves. One is a fascist, the other isn't.
Exactly. Well, the kind of hegemonic attitudes or the hegemonic culture within America or the West in general is one that is nationalist, that is bigoted, that is authoritarian because of, our history. So it's very easy for those attitudes to become co-opted by faux populists on the right.
Okay.
There's also a Canadian theorist who's kind of elaborated on this. His name's Bob Altmaier. If you're interested in something a little bit more up to date, and he did his new book's on basically Trump and how Trump basically tapped into these authoritarian trends. I think there's like 7 traits of authoritarianism. that he identifies. But the book is basically kind of unpacking, how Trump did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just there is like I do think that Trump is uniquely bad. I also think that like anti-intellectualism has existed in the United States for a really long time. He kind of like tapped into that vein. And yeah, I agree.
So, I would say, yeah, Trump is uniquely bad because of his ability to mobilize people.
Mm-hmm.
Trump activated the Republican base in a way that the kind of George W. Bush, we're civil Republicans. We still believe in all the Republican things, but we have an air of civility to us. Trump was like, fuck that. We're coming in, we're bringing this pussy in, and we're doing the wall. So people love that shit because one thing Republicans hate is inauthenticity. They hate people who seem inauthentic.
Yeah.
They vote for them all the time. Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, all of the reactionaries that came out of 2018, 2020. All of these people are super inauthentic. Some of them definitely believe it. But people like Trump because what's the thing you always hear him say? He talks just like me. Very elementary syntax. True. Like, it's very within the Republican mind, because I don't think Marcus, do you know the study, or maybe Professor Q, what's the percentage of Republican voters that are like below the poverty line? It's not it's a super small percentage.
I
have
know what
numbers.
you're talking about, but I don't know the numbers. Yeah, let me do some fact checking.
No, you're good. You don't have to go look it up. But
Now you made me curious.
Well, the Republican Party doesn't have a very large representation within those who are in poverty. They have it for sure, but it's not an outsized representation the way it is within the Democratic Party because of, our history again. So the kinds of appeals to Reaganomics, free market capitalism, all of these things, that appeals to a big part of the conservative base, because even the ones who are poor, they view themselves as the temporarily embarrassed millionaire. And the ones who do have money, the larger majority of the base, they like his policies because they serve their own interests.
So I do know a study
okay.
that kind of backs this up. I'm not going to drop the stats of you have a Marcus, that's probably better, but there's a great study that basically looked at what it was about Trump's base that got people motivated. And I've heard you say this line a lot on your channel. It's about the anger. It's about the rage.
Yep.
It gave people a lightning rod.
Mm-hmm.
But people like Chapo's popular too. Do you know what I mean? In the same vein, where it's like Chapo's popular because they're, the dirtbag left angle, where it's like, oh, they say how I feel as well. So I wonder if it's just like a dropping of the formalities and civilities and getting, back to let's just say how we kind of feel on both about each other kind of thing. But the problem I feel like that, but with that approach, is that it's a caricature of the other side most of the time. When you talk to someone that's a Trump supporter, they're not like the caricature that Chapo paints them as, and likewise with any of these other people. So I don't know. It's just it's interesting talking and having my real life interactions versus these perceived meltdowns of civility and stuff. And because in reality, in person, it doesn't seem like that. That's just my lived experience.
Have you checked out Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan, Greg?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there was a good kind of analysis that we watched the other day of Andrew's tactic when it comes to what is called gonzo journalism, where essentially you strip away the veneer of writing a narrative or creating a narrative, and you just allow the subject to be viewed. He did this during 2020 when he went to Minneapolis during the riots, there was a long stretch of his video where there was silence. He wasn't talking, camera wasn't talking. They were just walking through these buildings that were being looted and through these streets that were on fire. It's a very good way of analyzing what exactly the scene is and coming to your own conclusions. But when he does that with subjects, like at these right-wing rallies, the unapologetic nature that people feel when they're just given a mic and asked, "What's on your mind?" with no pushback, no leading questions.
Genius question, opening question, man. I love that.
Yeah. What's on your mind? And they'll tell you.
Exactly.
You give them enough rope and they'll JQ real quick.
It's either the JQ or like the NWO right now, dude. It's like I can't. The anti-vaccine groups that I'm in are like just it's so funny, man. Like every month, dude, they talk about that stuff. Like, okay, so who's in charge? Like, who do you think is in charge now? And it's like, I posted the poll in Marcus's Discord, but it's just like, it's so these huge conspiracies and stuff, and like the huge group that's like controlling everything, and
an obsession with a plot.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about Great Reset?
Yeah, that's funny. We so
forgot we got a guest here for a
most
moment.
of the Great Reset content that's been covered on the channel has actually been covered by one of my co-hosts, Ashley, the media wench, because she's been covering the media wench.
Okay.
She was like at the parties, she's the beer wench because she gets everybody beer, and so like as a streamer, she's the media wench because she's better at social media than the rest of us. So, but she's been covering this woman named Adrienne Curry, who won America's Next Top Model, and is talking. She does these makeup videos, but they're really conspiracy videos, and she talks about the Great Reset. And so we had to take a look into what it was, and it's just like rich people pretending they're gonna like help everybody.
God, dude, Klaus Schwab or whatever his fucking name is, dude.
Yeah, at Davos. Yeah, they're just like
the World Economic Forum.
There's a couple motherfuckers who probably mean well, but really need to shut up, and Klaus Schwab is one of them.
Peter Daszak at the what's the Eco Health Alliance or something. What is it?
What is she talking about him?
It's so crazy, dude. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain. I don't. Okay. Do these organizations exist? Yes. Are they a lot of rich people? Yes. Do I think that they're like controlling the world narrative? Like, how can they? I mean, let's be real. Like, they could lobby and like pay people off and stuff like that, but they're at the end of the day, they're only advising. Why would the United States like be at the whim, or any country be at the whim of like Klaus Schwab and what he says? Like, I just don't get it.
Well, that's why I think he needs to shut up, because all he's doing is providing fodder for conspiracy theorists. He needs to take the George Soros route and just quietly give his money to what he thinks are good causes and let the chips fall as they may. I think Bill Gates needs to do it too. Bill Gates, go away. Spend your money on what you think are good causes and shut up, because you don't have expertise in some of the stuff you're putting your money behind, and you're counting on other experts.
Market his projects.
Yeah. Well, great. Put on someone else who has like domain expertise to market his weird. I don't know.
Well, it's like Elon Musk. What is Elon Musk's greatest asset? His ability to market to memers.
Yeah.
If he stepped away as the like front man, the biggest cheerleader of his own projects, no one would have he wouldn't have the same kind of like hype behind him. So these billionaires, they have a certain ego about them where they have to be involved. They have to be the face of it.
Right, and some of them do okay, but like there's just some of them that all they do is just provide pull quotes for conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you're exactly right, Gremlo. Like, and he thought, and he knew, he saw how Twitter allowed him to constantly be in that orbit, in that conversation, in the media. And then he saw, like, that, holy shit, they could ban me. So I'm going to be out of the conversation. So I'm not going to be able to raise any money. So my companies are going to fucking go down because of that. So I need to literally buy this thing so I have the reins of media information and I can stay in the news.
Oh, I think the Twitter thing was quite literally just an ego thing. I think he's at that point where it's not even like a utilitarian calculus. It's quite literally just ego.
Maybe it's just a pump and dump.
I thought it was going to be a pump and dump at first, and then he went through with the damn thing. I lost a lot of money.
What? Did you? No way.
No, I don't gamble.
So before we
you buy puts there, dude.
Before we move on too much, I just wanted to add another thing. If we're like kind of getting a list of the sort of the properties of it, it's like cult and control group dynamics loom large in a lot of these communities. The people I've spoken to who have given me the most insight about conspiracy communities are actually the people I've spoken to through my interest in the cult of Scientology, because they've described dynamics within control groups that fit conspiracy communities and guru culture in a lot of ways. It's not always one-to-one. You don't just run around calling everything you don't like a cult, but you see a lot of the stuff at play, like control of information. Like, sure, Eric Weinstein can't control the information in a Discord server while he's there before he takes his ball and goes home because somebody like looked at him sideways. I don't even know how you look at somebody sideways on Discord, but somebody looked at him sideways. But they're still like, they're telling you where to get the information, who to trust, who not to trust. And like, and that, you know, people who are, you know, criticizing them or whatever are bad actors. And that's a big thing in cults and control groups. The other, like Tony Ortega and John Atack are the two people who have taught me more about this, like online communities and this phenomena than people that I've talked to who are studying it, because their interest is in cults and control groups. So it's really kind of an important factor here. And I think like the best example obviously is Scientology, but there's high control groups can be anything from an abusive relationship all the way up to a hierarchical structure like Scientology. And I think if people are looking into extremism and gurus, it's really important to like have some knowledge in how cults operate. And I just think that's, if we're kind of getting a list of things, I just want to make sure we don't miss that, because that stuff's going to be really important, like in kind of analyzing this stuff and giving people like a toolkit to recognize it without having to dig into every specific claim being made by the guru or whatever.
So Goffman, he's a famous sociologist. He talks about total institutions, and I think it applies here too. So like this idea of total institution, it basically shapes your entire worldview. So like I see this in the IDW in that there's a lot of creeping that they do. They don't just stay in their lane. They try, like the Weinsteins are a good example. They try to explain everything according to their theory and with no nuance, nothing. And so, I don't know, for me, that's a real, a red flag, as it were.
I mean, Eric Weinstein's thing is literally a single equation to explain everything. That's his whole...
He's looking for the God theory?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a theory of everything.
And not for nothing, Chris. Scientology does that too. I don't know if you've been on the channel late at night when we're watching videos from Scientology TV. Yeah, they have a 24-hour network that always runs. If you ever need a filler for your stream, it's good crazy. But they will also, just no matter what it is, they're going to explain it through that lens. And I think what you were saying right there with the gurus doing it too, it's another like parallel in ways that groups that calling Eric Weinstein or Brett Weinstein's community a control group might be a little too strong, but it's certainly being able to explain everything through the lens of the leader's expertise is definitely important. And I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because you put it in words that I wouldn't have been able to.
Oh, you're too fucking kind. You want me to kiss you?
I am not that kind. I have the opposite reputation. Excuse me. People are like, no, don't have him on your panel. He's a dick. I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, shut up.
No, it's not that bad.
Well,
all right, any other criteria that come to mind, or like you just did, Dave, anything that like you really think is sort of integral for people analyzing anybody they encounter online, whether they're content creator, an academic, or both, or neither?
I would say look up their background. Like, if this person came from academia and they're harping against academia, they're likely getting a bag from someone.
Yeah.
Well, I harp against academia all the time, so...
Right, but
Well,
your,
we all know
your
Russell J. Gould is
analysis-
paying you through the quantum banking system. So
Dude. Got that teal money, dude.
Okay, I think I've got that down in here. I might have like worded it differently, but I think I've got it. So when I go through the criteria, let me know if you want me to like rephrase it at all.
Marcus, what do you have so far?
Oh, all right, I'll go ahead and run down the list. So again, this is like stuff that I've pulled out of the conversation thus far, so it's a little expansive. I think that's good. So I think my thinking with all of these things is like, if you meet a certain amount of these, everyone is a point, and if you exceed a certain threshold, then like you're a bona fide chud. But if you're like kind of in the middle somewhere, you have a certain amount of these that you meet, then you're kind of like chud adjacent, and that's kind of like a be careful, be cautious, as opposed to like this person's absolutely full of shit. So here's what I got: failed Hollywood aspirant, fringe political figure, unwillingness to be criticized or deal with any criticism at all. Weaponizing intellectualism, so they are the galaxy brain. Rich privileged background, so coming from money, or inheriting wealth. That's another big one. Weaponizing of credentials, so I am right because I have a degree. Lack of current academic research or academic presence, so people with credentials who don't like actively contribute to their field, or are like not employed in academia or like private industry in their field, anything like that. Perpetual disillusionment with academia, and I think like Professor Hugh said, there's going to be some of that anyways in academics, so that's just 1 point for those of us that are not insane.
We're trying to Jason. That's what's happening, Professor Q. We're getting loved, dude.
So making shit up that is immune to fact checking. I've termed this malicious confabulation, as it were.
That's my favorite one so far.
That's a good one.
Perpetuating dubious self-help advice or life hacks, offering substitutes for modern medicine or like psychotherapy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Validating biases, bigotry, or bad behavior for content. Conspiratorial thinking, which encompasses basically brain rot, anything from microchips to CRTs crumbling, making our institutions crumble, satanic panic, what have you. Pushing a brand t-shirts as an homage to Chapo, or a Substack, because I see Substack Andes all the time.
That is a weird thing now. It's everywhere, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Subscribe to my
everyone has a
Substack.
Substack.
Patreon in
Is
the bio.
that? What
Oh
is
yeah, I
that?
gotta add Patreon. I think we also lost Professor Q here.
Yeah.
in the mix. He'll come back, I'm sure.
You got too
What
many
else?
points. You guys-
Yeah, seriously, too many
you go.
high-level ideas.
He's like, I can't listen to this list. I'm out of here.
So I've got, what else? Where did I leave off? Agitating against scientific consensus, so basically being anti-vax, pushing miracle drugs like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, climate change denial, since there's massive consensus on that. Distorting scientific literature or taking it out of context to fit a narrative, which is what Gremlo said about Tim Pool. Rapid changes in views that happen to align with what's popular at the time, so really like doing an about face that isn't like really a true representation of what that person really believes. Everything is serious business 100% of the time. No fun allowed. Being propped up by dark money. Yeah, wet ass P word. Literally, yeah. Ben Shapiro can't even say that word.
Puritanism or puritanical syntax, like no swearing.
Ooh, yeah. Let's add that. Puritanical syntax.
Could we like broaden that out, maybe just to like civility porn?
Sure.
Ooh, yes. I'll say puritanical syntax and civility porn.
Yeah, because that's like a huge red flag to me. Is when like civility is almost like the end instead of a means to an end. Like we will have a better conversation if we're civil, but if the point of the conversation is just to be civil with one another, then like what are you even talking about?
I would also add in debate degeneracy, like constantly believing that the free exchange of ideas will yield the positive outcome that they desire.
Oh, it's like that sense making shit again. Yeah.
Hang on, let me add that in. I might like slightly change that from debate degeneracy to debate perversion, since Hassan calls them debate perverts, and I really like that.
we were doing like what is it called whenever like the first letter of a word kind of hits the same in a sentence, like every
Alliteration.
word. What was it?
Alliteration.
Alliteration. Yeah, we were kind of doing an alliteration thing there. So I was like, okay, let's try to see if we can figure out.
Actually,
something
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
all
rings.
right. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. Okay, so puritanical syntax and civility porn, so no swearing and tone policing around civility rather than actually talking about shit. Debate degeneracy, where exchanging ideas somehow magically changes things. Being propped up by dark money, especially as it pertains to people who come out of nowhere, such as Brett Cooper. Charging for absurd shit, and the example from the conversation would be sense making. You know,
Hey man, they did a breathwork course too, where I think you like hyperventilate.
Oh no, they
yeah.
didn't do
awesome.
the Wim Hof effect.
Yes, that's it.
That's the new
it.
one. Everyone's doing
Yeah,
so
you can
hot
thank
right
Joe
now.
Rogan for that one. Oh, that's one you can add, Marcus. Been on Joe Rogan.
Ooh, true. Yes.
Been on
Actually-
Joe Rogan twice or more. Let's narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because I want my
Peter Hotep-
appearance on there without getting a point. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody gets a mulligan, right?
Everybody gets one.
I'll say Joe Rogan, frequent flyer.
There we
Yes.
go. That's good.
Has tried DMT.
Hey man. No, talks about DMT regularly.
Yeah.
That's,
Oops, hang on. I need to edit the post. Where is it? DMT enthusiast.
or maybe psychedelics enthusiast.
Psychedelics,
Yeah, I'll say-
new age medicine. But that kind of
Loves-
goes into like the anti-science thing, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Didn't we already
Yeah,
cover
I
that?
mean, to some degree, like there's actually a lot of like really cool literature on psychedelics right now that's actually grounded in neurobiology, which
Yeah.
is fucking awesome. But that's a whole separate
psilocybin,
discussion.
man, it's showing promise.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
Unironically.
I think KPAR's linked a study about. Actually, no, it was KPAR's and Lane Bear were linking me literature. I think Lane Bear linked me a clinical trial with psilocybin versus Lexapro, and it was way better than Lexapro for depression. Like, it was wild.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
besides
never
the
been
point.
studied before in a proper context, so it's going to
Yeah,
be some
until
interesting
now.
results. So,
Precisely.
Unfortunately, my
All right, so we've got Joe Rogan frequent flyer (parentheses 2+ times), dog whistles. So things like 1488, people who control the media and whatnot. Tribalism, so basically trying to always agitate against an outgroup. Talking outside of one's expertise training (parentheses not staying in your lane).
But the thing with that is we all talk outside of our expertise. I think it's like when they talk outside of their area of expertise, but then like refer back to their area of expertise as the reason they're right about the thing outside of their. Like Brett Weinstein does it all the
yeah.
time, where he says, "Let's look at, I don't know, basket weaving through an evolutionary biology lens or whatever."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's
Yeah,
not
it's
a
a-
good basket weaver, and maybe he is. I don't know.
it's an
Some of
argument
that's-
from authority, logical fallacy, where you're saying that you're an expert in this area because you're an expert in another area. That's not related together.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
so
an
I'll-
argument. It's worse than that. It's the argument from your own authority.
Yes, I'll maybe rephrase this. I'll say referring to expertise as justification for views outside their field.
There you go. Fuck yeah. That's why you're the one taking notes.
also there's something else we're missing.
Oh yeah,
too.
Levelhead actually just added a really good one from chat. Unnecessary scientific prose.
Dude,
Oh,
I hate
yeah.
those people. Oh my gosh.
You
So
meet those
using
people
your
in real
SAT
life,
words.
too. Oh, God.
Seriously. What was? Oh
Ooh.
my god. What was the word?
IQ.
Oh, any mention of IQ. Does that go under dog whistle, though?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good dog whistle since
Yeah,
now we know
that's-
IQ
that's
has
fair.
no scientific basis. But I'll make an explicit mention of IQ. Oh shit! Hang on. Sorry. Give me 1 second. All right. So we've got cult and control group dynamics. So abusive relationships, hierarchical structures, and I also added weaponizing followers and sicking them on people, since that's like a thing that cults tend to do is take their devout and use them as a weapon against those who dare like question the authority.
That's yes, they do. Yes, they do.
There's also
and
this
then
tendency
I
for
added
them.
what Professor Q just mentioned, and then we'll try and like get him back in here because I think he just messaged me on Discord.
Are you able to hear Professor Q, Marcus?
Oh wait, is he in here?
Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we've been talking to
Oh,
him.
he's
You
back.
haven't.
What the fuck?
He's been saying a couple things and been talking.
Oh.
About, I just didn't know if like he was not coming through on your end or.
No, he was not coming through on my end at all.
In your
All right, hang
brain.
on, Let me fix
On the
this.
brain end.
Don't worry, Chris. I've been listening to what you've been saying.
Microdosing my tits off, dude.
At least somebody loves me. That's all I care about.
Yeah, what the hell? Okay, I need to think maybe like change the URL and then get him back in. Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay, I see him.
Oh,
I think,
weird.
I might need to unmute him in Video Ninja. Give me just a second. Okay. Say something, Professor Q.
Yeah. I'm back.
Okay. Now I can hear you. Holy
Okay.
shit.
I was
Weird.
just
Technology.
That's
Yeah,
weird.
restate everything you said in the last 6.5 minutes.
I know he was just trying to cut in, so
Yeah, I realized that I wasn't coming through that. Anyway, this one of the things that like I see with all of them is they try to circumvent like traditional outlets. So like they don't have peer-reviewed publications. They try to establish their own media empire because they want to talk about stuff that and not be criticized for it.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good point. I'll add circumventing media outlets or other accountability like peer review.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think the last one I added just briefly, I guess, was just egomania.
oh shit.
I would do egomania and parentheses, like manufactured cancellation.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, like they all say that like the media won't let doesn't want us to talk about this, or I'm being canceled by the liberal media.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're like going on CNNBC to talk about whatever.
They're the enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, Celticness in chat too has a good one. I'm not sure how we would phrase it, but it's like saying we don't know for sure, we don't have information on stuff that's generally settled, but then not applying skepticism to things that are definitely not settled. Like basically
Ooh.
misplaced skepticism, like it's kind of you got the car going the wrong way. Like,
So I'm gonna phrase that as sowing fear, uncertainty, and doubt into things that are already settled.
very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like a couching of your own ideas and framing is so important that you have to hear this that nobody else wants you to hear. Where it's like, if you're going to be like,
The purveyor of secret truths.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's such a good one.
You're like, oh yeah,
Ooh.
Twitch actually banned me last week from like saying something like this because they don't want me to say this. So I can't even say this right now, but I would speak so many truths that, yeah, man.
Sounds like you've been checking in on Haas.
Yeah, I'm gonna add the purveyor of secret truths under conspiratorial thinking, since that
Yeah.
I think is a subdivision of that concept.
Oh, like appeals to antiquity or ancient wisdom too is really good. They all do that. Brett and Heather in their book, it's all an appeal to like old ways of thinking about
Yeah.
the
Even the
world
fucking
around.
title.
Hunter-Gatherer's Guide.
Hell, I mean, a lot of that happens within the self-help, fitness, manosphere stuff. Like, what happened to men? That kind of shit, where they appeal to like the Viking times or like warrior culture, the warrior mindset. Meanwhile, these dudes were like ass fucking each other and boys.
Oh, speaking of the warrior culture, here you go.
I know how to stand up to a man.
He has the best fucking soundboard, by the way.
Oh shit, I love soundboards.
Oh, if
Well,
anybody
so-
wants any of this stuff, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's not like I stole this content from a bunch of other people anyway, so feel
Yeah.
free. You use what you like from it. I do have some
Well,
funny ones.
I mean, what's wild, Dave, is that I mean, not to like put you on the spot, Gremlo, but Gremlo does one of the best Jordan Peterson.
I thought that was
impressions I've ever
Gremlo.
heard.
I was just eating and I thought that was Gremlo. And then you're like, it's a good soundboard. I'm like, what? Oh my god.
All right, I think rejection of nuance. Okay, I think the last point about like, I guess I just phrased it as like rejection of modernity. I literally did the rejecting modernity, return to monkey.
So
Just like, yeah, it smells like wood, like mahogany, and like cigars.
Oh, the
yeah.
humidor.
Smells like.
Yeah.
Galaxy Brain
Mildew and
Humidor.
patchouli.
oh god, that I just got to know if the sink behind Brett and Heather works. That's all in the world that I want to know. Is that sink real or is it just a prop?
Oh
I
my
think someone
god.
needs to super chat just to get them to turn it on.
Dude,
never
I
send
do
them money.
feel like it's kind of weird, like having your wife on, like in at the beginning, like of my YouTube stream thing. I was trying to think like I have really good conversations with my wife about like science and stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe I could emulate some of that natural conversation with you, like, and you could like stay on off screen and kind of like ask me questions and stuff like that. And we did an episode and stuff like that, but So I guess I can kind of see them wanting to emulate that, but the problem is that it's such a circle jerk about how smart they are, as opposed to like talking about other things. The whole premise is of like what this whole forbidden fruit kind of like idea and nuance. I don't know. It just feels really weird where you're just like, is she going to be the right one to push back on his bad ideas? You know, like if he goes spouting off, is she going to be like, whoa, we got to cut that? You know, I don't know.
No.
Or the other way around. What was that guy who was another like failed Hollywood actor? It was right after the 2020 elections. He had like a Christian broadcast, and his wife just wouldn't stop like talking behind him about like, you're gonna alienate your Christian audience if you say GD.
Oh, Scott Baio.
Scott Baio.
Yeah, Scott
Wow.
Baio.
Yes.
I didn't know about this.
His wife negging him in the background was the best thing in the world.
What? I had no
My
idea.
goddamn radio show with a bitch in my ear. It's so funny.
What?
Yeah.
That's another one. Failed childhood actor, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
like,
guess
what?
We have the failed Hollywood orbiter.
yeah, I've got that was a point number one, was a failed Hollywood aspirant.
Love that word.
Aspirant is a good word.
Yeah, if nothing else, I'm good for SAT words. I'm just like halfway normal, and I know when not to use them, unlike fucking Brett Weinstein and company. So.
What's funny is the QAnon anonymous guys have talked a lot about the Hollywood to QAnon pipeline. Like all of the guys they follow are the big Q influencers are all from Hollywood.
Oh, who was that? Who was that gay dude who did the walk away campaign? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Like the one that like he challenged Sam Cedar of Majority Report for a debate and then refused to release it.
Ruben?
No, not Dave Rubin. It was
Crowder?
this other guy. Oh God, what's his name?
We all know Crowder's secretly gay. We all know this.
But
Hang
yeah,
on.
he refused to release the debate because he got bodied, and then like all we got was this really crappy recording from Sam's studio. I forget his name, but that's like the failed Hollywood guy to sort of QAnon.
Brandon
conspiracist.
Straka.
Brandon
That's
Straka.
the one.
Dang. That's a name.
That
Yeah.
guy got hella mad when he first started his campaign, and people started pointing out that all the people he put up that had walked away were actually just from Shutterstock.
Dude,
They
speaking
exist.
of Shutterstock, we were talking, I made an ad for Marcus for his channel, and I was telling him, like, dude, I'm telling you, all of these right-wing dudes, Charlie Kirk, they're all using the exact same format that I'm using. The same website. I've seen, like, the stock footage that I use and little ads that I make on these people's advertisements that they run.
Dude, I was...
Grumlow, like, to emphasize that, we were looking, there was like a clip from a congressperson that was like saying, you know, abortions are bad, but they had like a prop, like, you know how Congress people have poster boards a lot of the time as fucking props. They literally had Shutterstock, like a stolen Shutterstock photo of like random multiracial babies. They literally stole like the fourth Google image result photo on Shutterstock for like a congressperson's anti-abortion prop that they had on the floor, basically saying like, well, why do we protect the eggs of sea turtles but not the eggs of women? No abortions. Like, it was just wild that, like, yeah, they steal fucking stock imagery. It's low effort content, dude. Like, it's really low effort content that Republicans throw out all the fucking time.
Low
Dude,
risk, high reward.
Speaking of which, like those samples and stuff that you get with GarageBand and all those, like the music making like software, my friends and I were like making something, and like a beat, and then we were listening to like early albums of Thievery Corporation, and it was the exact same drum fill. We're like, oh my god, no way.
I just found that clip, Marcus. I'll drop it in the chat.
Go for it. Here, let me count the amount of points that I've got right now, and then I think we can decide like if you meet X amount of points, like what tier of chud you fall under.
Oh, this is beautiful.
14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
A lot of shit for people to keep track of.
6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 1, 2, 3.
But we demand to
4.
be taken seriously on this.
Yeah, now look at us.
36 points.
Maybe we're the exact thing that we're criticizing.
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly.
Just think about that for a minute.
Hey, I'm only 35, okay? I'm only 35 points on this thing. It's not I'm not all 36.
Yeah, I think I'll probably like wind up trying to put these into almost like a, I don't know, like some sort of accessible thing. I don't know if it's going to be like a Google form or something like that.
What about a
but
bingo
something.
card generator?
Is it? Well, I mean, is it good? Do you have a bingo card generator that's bigger than 5x5?
Well, no,
get
that's
them.
it. Would, I mean, it's just funny. It
That's
just
not
would
bingo.
randomize them.
Yeah, because I mean, with a 5x5, you'd have 25 of them, but I don't know. Yeah, 6x6 would actually be perfect if it was able to do 6x6.
And then, like, how many bingos did you get actually on this person? Instead of like a raw number, did you get 4 bingos? Did you fill the whole card?
Beautiful.
Yeah, that actually might be a decent metric too.
I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep getting those numbers up.
I have a paid account on one of those bingo things because that's one of the things we do on our channel. And to make more than a few cards, you need to give them money. So
Oh, wow.
if you want a bingo card, I can make you one.
Yeah, actually, I might DM you the list of criteria for a fancy bingo card for Chud Bingo.
We did that for the last TPUSA conference. We played.
Turning
Oh,
Point
those
USA
are the
bingo
best.
sounds great.
Oh yeah, dude! You just put in all the talking points like CRT, Marxism, making your kids gay, like that kind of stuff, and there were lots of winners.
By the way, one of my students gave me a fucking brilliant idea because I've been, I'm in Missouri, so I got to think about like, what am I going to do if they ban talking about CRT at the college level? Gonna love this. Structural injustice theory.
Nice. Let's go with it.
I'm not talking about CRT. I'm talking about structural injustice theory.
No joke. That's the stuff that you got to do, man. I mean, that's what like the Frank Luntz like focus group, shit that the right does all the time, and they have these great slogans that you're like, shit. It's such a like look at the pro-choice versus pro-life argument, man. Like I feel like that's a great one where like the messaging just needs to be changed, or people need to think about how to say it differently.
We have a big problem with messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I totally think that that's a huge problem right now, but that may be getting too off topic. I don't know.
I just got
I
the
think-
most
go
amazing
ahead.
wall of text from Marcus in Discord.
By the way, Here
It
it
was
is.
just the list. It was the list.
If you have it like on a Google Doc or something, can you share that with me instead?
Okay, yeah. Here, hang on. I will delete this wall of text.
You don't have to delete it. Let's keep it there. I need evidence of this.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I
All
think
right, give me a second. I'll put it in. Go ahead.
I think that's a good way of framing that problem and stuff. And it's kind of, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of like getting into the term of like needlessly. I think that's actually more descriptive. I was going to say like needlessly creating jargon, but I think that's actually the opposite, where you're actually describing the results of the structural racism there. And it's actually better than the original term, personally.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just to kind of relate what I just brought up back to, like, what we're talking about is I get a lot of students, I'm teaching, like, these big sections of 250 people, 4
Jeez.
sections, you do the math. But what happens is I'll get a handful of people who have heard this shit and they come to my class and they're like, whoa, who the fuck are you? Like, why are you saying I'm a racist white guy? I don't, and you know, it is challenging because the terminology that we've developed for people in rural Missouri, you know, it's kind of a hard sell sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do think maybe combating. I mean, that's one of the ways that these guys have taken off. They've learned how to speak the language. They've learned how to communicate, spread these ideas in a really simplistic, digestible format.
Meme format.
We got to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly, dude. It's so digestible. Just the meme format, like, exactly, man. It's infuriating.
Format. Have you seen the new? I think it's either the Blaze or PragerU. Benny Johnson has a whole program on their network just for memes called The Left Can't Meme.
Oh my god! And they're made a show.
They made a show, and all he does is he looks at like hottest memes of the week, and it's just him explaining the joke.
Yeah,
and trying to laugh at them. It's very funny.
It's bad. It's bad. That's.
Oh, just look it up.
Yeah, it's.
And this is the problem we were talking about earlier, where it's like, how do you explain nuance and stuff in a meme and have a complex view of the world based off of memes? But that's kind of like where we're going with this whole everyone learns things by titles and nobody reads full articles and.
Well, you're not going to be able to do it with memes. Memes are basically just like illustrated dog whistles because they're all inside jokes. If you don't know like the inside joke, you're lost.
True.
So you can't do it with memes. You can make entry points through popular media and things like memes.
Yeah.
But or like explain simple concepts, but greater thought can't be done in that format.
Agreed.
Well, like one of the actually great framings of CRT that's not structural injustice theory is Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, The New Jim Crow. But someone's also taken that and kind of riffed on it, and they have a theory called The New Jim Code, which is about how like racist practices get embedded in the algorithm, etc. But The New Jim Crow is about how the drug war specifically acts as a new form of Jim Crow segregation.
Yeah.
But it helped that idea really kind of take off in a kind of new way that it hadn't before.
Well, even like think about intellectual dark web, you know, like dark web, like because this is at the same time that you had like Silk Road and the dark road for all the money, the drugs and the money, like, oh, like this is something that's being smuggled, like again, like you can't, this is what you're not supposed to hear, like that kind of thing. As soon as something's banned, a book is banned, I want to fucking read it. I don't know, that's just my brain.
Yes.
I don't know.
That's the spark that Adorno talked
effect.
about within the culture industry. You have to have that spark in order for the cult. Like, you guys talked about authenticity earlier, and like top-down administered culture rarely takes off. Look at any fucking boy band. Yeah, they have their moments, but over time, they fizzle and fade. And how many boy bands did they try to do? They tried to mass produce and didn't work.
Yeah.
Authenticity is a powerful weapon, and so that IDW sounds, it's forbidden, right? This is the, so, yeah.
I don't know how STEM lords who are in tech feel about the IDW title, because when I first explained that to a buddy of mine who is in the tech industry, he couldn't stand it. He got so mad, he brought out like a PowerPoint presentation to explain the dark web to me and why the IDW is not a dark web. And I was like, you understand that we're using like common parlance, right?
This is interesting. Just download the Tor browser and then you'll see.
Oh God! Like they call themselves the dark web. Like that was a self-imposed moniker.
Yeah, Eric I think was the one who like coined the phrase, and it was it's this idea that these people who are incredibly platformed and privileged are somehow being pushed down.
Exactly.
They've been pushed down, even though they were maybe Brett and Eric got pulled up by Sam and Jordan a little bit.
Yeah.
But these were all people who could generate, viewership just through, in Eric's case, just by throwing advertising money at the problem, probably. I mean, the dude's worth like $50 million or something. It's like,
wow.
No, he's a venture capitalist. Dude.
Oh,
You don't
yeah,
get
that's
paid
right,
real well
that's
if you're a
right.
venture capitalist. That's how he solved physics, was through venture capital.
Oh, that's right.
Well, and like that's the worst part is that literal approach, regardless of how much Eric is bullshitting or not. Like you literally see the American government take that same approach. Like the fucking NIH and a lot of their technological development efforts, they're literally saying we are using taxpayer money like venture capitalists. They literally say VC, and they were throwing it at companies that are like making COVID tests or vaccines. Are just like, fuck it, throw money at it, hope something works. Like, not really the great approach, but like it gets popularized in like the STEM lord circles by people like Eric. Like that notion that you could just take money and throw it at who you think is the most like erudite scholar with the most high level ideas is going to work. Like that's a fucking insane notion.
I wonder,
at least as far as COVID is concerned, it failed.
At least with the COVID vaccine, I wonder how much of that framing is because of Trump. Because I mean, we both know the decades of research that RNA delivery by nanoparticles was going on. So I wonder if there was like a marketing decision by Trump to like say that like that's what they were doing, but in reality they always had that RNA technology for vaccines, but they just never had a reason to use it, and then they're going to put a bunch of money.
Yeah, I think like what I'm alluding to, I think is a little bit more like specifics. I'm talking about like BARDA, RADx, all of the X programs coming out of the NIH.
Gotcha.
And that rhetoric was coming from Francis Collins, the now former head of the NIH, rather than like Trump himself.
Okay.
I don't think Trump ever originated any of the talking points that he would use. I think he would kind of like allude to an idea.
Yeah.
And then his sycophants within media would run with it, say something, and then he would, because he's a TV idiot, would just follow along with, whatever Sean Hannity or, Tucker is saying that night. And then he's like, yeah, that's right. It's critical race theory. Never heard of it before, but I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
So you bring up an interesting point, and Dave, you may know the answer better than anyone. How hostage are these people like Brett, Heather, to their listeners, to their viewers? Because
that's a good question.
That's it's going to depend, right? Because there's a lot of people who jumped ship on Eric because of his behavior, not because they don't believe his wacky ideas, but because, like I said before, anytime he ends up in a community with the people that follow him, he ends up like berating the people in that community and acting in an abusive way.
Oh, really? No idea.
I've seen him on with Brian Keating, who's, I don't like him very much, but he's a physicist. He's knows his stuff, and I've seen Eric like negging that guy, like in a clubhouse thing. So, I to the extent that maybe Eric is, he certainly doesn't know that he's beholden to his audience, right?
Huh.
Because he'll say fairly abusive things to people once they get into a voice chat with him if he doesn't like what they have to say. But obviously, audience capture is a problem for anybody. Like you can't avoid it. Like if you get more and more popular and your well-being, your financial well-being is dependent upon the people that watch you, they're going to capture you. And if they zig and you zag, you're taking a pretty big risk,
Especially being quote unquote like canceled, it kind of like puts even more of an onus on their Patreon and people that are going to go and buy tickets to their shows when they're touring and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's going to vary by the creator, and I think that Dave Rubin probably got captured the most by his audience out of all of those people.
Yeah.
That poor guy. He's everywhere, man. Even Joe Rogan and that was, I think that was him specifically why Sam Harris was like, I can't take these guys seriously anymore because of like Dave Rubin or whatever. It was like he's just.
I don't know if Jordan Peterson has a case of audience capture, but I think it might be like an attempt to keep up airs. I don't know if that's the right word, but to keep up the appearance of some kind of father figure intellectual, he's constantly like corrupting his mind and slowly like descending into madness.
Yeah, dude, I really worry about his mental health, dude. For real, like that guy. It's like watching someone waste away in front of your eyes, where it's just this guy is not well, and I don't know I don't know if he's so narcissistic and arrogant that he'd like not see a therapist or something, but especially if he did have a medical episode like that, like, dude, you should not be the first thing that's going on is like, I'm gonna be on a world stage again. Like, bro, you like need to calm down, get your health right, do some like weightlifting or something, put some meat on those bones, bro. Like,
I think
I gotta
clinical psychologist going to therapy. I don't know about that one.
I think it's that
usually they do.
That problem of the yes men. Like, I don't think there's anybody in his immediate circle who's willing to tell him no, because the gravy train,
Yeah, I think Michaela's taking advantage of him for sure.
Well,
I think she's more malicious than he is.
She had someone on from a Scientology front group on her show to talk about mental health drugs one time.
Fuck yeah.
Are you serious?
Dude, it's so stupid. And then her whole like different ideas or whatever, when she had Vosh on, like they had the person on like at staggered conversations. It was so weird. Like
David Fuller does that too, where they try to create the impression when they do the marketing for the thing, that I'm going to have these two people on who disagree and they're going to have this back and forth.
Yeah.
But what they do is they'll film two discrete interviews, right? And then in Michaela Peterson's case, it's so obvious what she's doing, because she'll front load the first 45 minutes to an hour with the person who generally shares her position, and then the person who doesn't share her position gets the next, whatever amount of time. And we all know that on YouTube, that first hour is where all your views are. People are going to peel off at the end. The other thing is the second person has no idea what the first person even said.
Exactly. It's up to her to be intellectually honest and like ask the right questions, or it's hard. That's a lot harder. Like, because that's just, it was so bad.
Like a fixed game.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the phrase they always use? You aren't being intellectually honest.
Yeah, that's in there. That's definitely in there.
Or logically consistent.
It's beautiful.
I make no claim of being intellectually honest. I come to everything in bad faith, and people just are going to have to learn to live with it.
Yeah. I always say I am a hypocrite, and I'm okay with it.
Right, because we all do that. I mean, we all do it. Like, why not cop to it?
Well, I think especially like within the online debate sphere, like intellectual honesty is like a big thing for them. The debate perverts, as Marcus brought up earlier, like intellectual honesty, logical follow through, like these kind of buzzwords are big for them.
Yeah, I'm so glad we decided not to do any of that. We decided just like not long after we got to Twitch, me and the media went, were like, let's not make a lot of friends.
It's bad for your health, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like intellectual honesty like leads people, if that's all they're trying to do, right? It leads people into weird scenarios where it's like, well, intellectual honesty, if we know that like, pharmaceutical companies in the United States are going to be on the profit motive and they're going to be making money off of people. If from the vaccine, then it logically follows that, well, they need to have like a bogus vaccine or the thing that I don't understand is like the actual conspiracy that's not true, but like if they were actually logical, it would be that it's actually the pharmaceutical companies that would be pushing the anti-vax stuff, because then that would necessitate the need for more vaccines. So nobody brings that up. It's so frustrating. Like, you idiots, you're not even conspiracy theorying right. Damn it.
Well, good. Luckily for us, you're on our side, because that's actually a pretty powerful one. So try not to release that out into the world if you can avoid it.
It's just
keep
us
that in your own lab.
It's just us hanging out, so we're good.
Oh, and I like a lot of too, like when the people are against big pharma, but then they're selling supplements that are made by the same pharmaceutical companies. Not maybe not Pfizer, but they're produced in the same facilities as like some regular like pharmaceutical drugs are. It's like, you idiot.
Have any of them started like marketing the their suppies as not FDA approved because that means it's not corrupted by the
Oh.
Marxist government.
Oh, that's
Dude,
hey,
that's a
keep that
good
to your-
one.
Keep that one to yourself too.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
These are all. This is bad. Do you
Yeah,
know? I hope they're not listening.
what were we talking about? An incubator earlier? Let's not do this.
Let me show you how to exploit people. Wait.
Yeah, I could be a really good right-wing grifter. I think I could really like bring in a lot of money.
It's a
No one clip that. No one clip that.
No, I mean, I say it all the time. It's fine.
yeah, it's kind of a weird scenario where because like I see people I don't, like I said, I don't, and I think you said too, Grandma, like I don't understand why would people watch this stuff? I don't understand it. I don't understand people that go to these people for any type of like well-researched opinion, because it's obviously not. They're just superficially going through it. Tim Pool, all these guys that we were talking about, Ben Shapiro, they're just so boring. They're so boring when you watch them. I can't. It's just, I don't know.
I think a lot of people want to feel smart, and I think that part of the sales pitch given to you by these people is that if you watch me, it's because you're smart. You're able to pick up on the things that your neighbors aren't picking up on, that the normies aren't picking up on.
Yeah, validation and rationalization.
Yeah, and there's always like that element too of like, I guess even more to piggyback on what Dave said, like the element of like, something that other people don't, like you're ahead of the curve. You're not one of the sheep. Like
True. The secret text.
True. Exactly.
Yeah. Like it's very much like you're part of the in-group type of like thinking, because you listen to me, the content creator, you're one of the, secret elite that actually know what's going on, and you'll, survive the Illuminati mediated Holocaust when, they eat all your babies for adrenochrome.
Don't let that one out into the world either, anybody. But so, I think Brett, like, even in so many words, says things like that to his audience. Brett Weinstein will sometimes tell the people, "Oh, you're in this space and you know these things." I think we could probably find him saying, "Until you get to the Illuminati-mediated Holocaust," he probably wouldn't.
Yeah, but once you've reached platinum tier, then you'll be able to answer these questions.
Yeah, once you donate to Brett's Patreon, then you get the real mask off content from the Humidor.
Oh God.
So how do we think that, like, how do we, especially, I think, so what happens now? Do we just educate people that this like the grift happens? Do we educate people that like it's not worth to have these people on, or is it platforming?
From having them on though.
Oh man, the where do we go from here question?
Yeah.
Did you have to do this? Now we gotta like do something. Fuck, I wouldn't sign up for
I'm not
this.
here to do something. I'm gonna make fun of Republicans.
Because it seems like deplatforming, that's kind of their whole thing. Why would we? I don't think that you could deplatform Eric Weinstein. Do you know what I mean? There's no
right, because he works for a venture firm. He could just prop up something like an afternoon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The net cozy or whatever.
So my thinking as far as that, like, where do we go from here question, at least like, I compiled the list into a Google Doc and I put it, I know you saw it, but I put it into the ministry chat, but like in sort of a higher order, like, way of thinking, what I want to do is almost like use this as a list or as like a starter. I think Dave put it well, like a toolkit almost to like help people more critically evaluate shit that they look at. Like, okay, someone you don't know, someone whose content you're watching before, like get out the chud criteria and just see if this video hits any on the list. Like,
okay,
just
am I falling into
slow
this?
people down and make people think about what they're actually consuming, rather than like immediately saying, oh yeah, Brett Weinstein, he's such a piece of shit. Like, we can have those conversations too. Don't get me wrong, but like, if someone's like, oh hey, have you heard about this content creator, or I just started watching their videos, you can be like, well, okay, take a look at some of these things. If they meet any of these criteria, like, we should probably like take a step back for a second and reevaluate what this person is doing, what they're about, Because I think I think there might be some evidence to actually show this. When you get people to like slow down and think rather than just shove content down their gullet furiously, like they have just come back from, a fucking 7-day fast because they were told that somehow works for weight loss. Like if someone is just going through things mindlessly, they'll just believe whatever's being told to them. But if they slow down and they think, that is when you really get them to like question what's in front of them. And I tell this to my chatters, you can apply these criteria to me too, absolutely, but that's something you should be doing for everybody. Whatever content you see, regardless of where it comes from, we need to be actively thinking rather than just blindly consuming content.
Yeah, that happens in my chat because it's just like Dave. I see that. If I see my name a bunch of times in my chat, I'm like, probably heading the wrong direction here.
I as far as like logical traps, like Celticness was like taking these people down directly and stuff through debate or something. I guess there is like some. Like, for example, like I don't think Jordan Peterson, I don't think I've ever seen an actual interview where someone actually talks about the logical traps and how shitty his academic arguments are. And that's kind of like the foundation for all of the next steps for Jordan Peterson, because that's where his credentials come from. That's why people look up to this guy. And it's like, just like...
I totally have.
Really? You've seen an interview with someone doing that?
So Zizek and Peterson did a debate.
Zizek, Peterson.
And it was fucking awesome. You don't even have to watch the Peterson part. The Zizek part, fucking awesome.
Also, another person who did real well with him was Matt Dillahunty.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all have seen that.
I've heard of that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, he did a real good job because there was a point at which you could tell that Dillahunty was no longer interested in taking Jordan Peterson's shit anymore and listening to him word salad. It was like a switch flip because the guy he does like talks about magic and skepticism and like critical thinking, and he's kind of came out of the new atheist movement not being a total piece of shit, and so he did a real good job, and I was like super impressed, and I think it was the first time I ever saw somebody kind of get Jordan Peterson on his heels like that, because he was everything Jordan Peterson wanted. He was polite, didn't interrupt all the time, didn't try to complete his sentences, didn't try to
You're
like
putting words in my mouth. That's not what I'm saying.
Damn, that's really good. That's really good. But yeah, that's really good. Matt Dillahunty, Jordan Peterson. It's from that idiot Travis Pangburn, but like it's from his debate thing. But other than that, it was really good. And then his afterward, he kind of did a breakdown of his discussion, and he was like, I was pretty happy with how that went, actually. So
yeah, this is a debate of capitalism versus Marxism, which is fine, but I'm talking about like Jordan Peterson's own academic research.
Oh, he gets into it. He
like Zizek stupefies him because in the like post speaking part, he's like, well, now I'm just totally confused because I had no idea what Marxism was, or like what the hell. I mean, he's like literally so frustrated.
I'll watch it.
It's
I thought I did, but I guess I didn't.
It's tough to watch because I mean, honestly, both of these people are insufferable in their own way.
Oh,
so,
come on, don't down Zizek like that.
I'll be honest, dude. It's ableist as hell, but I can't listen to him for Zizek for some reason, man. Like it's just, I try so hard. It's just, it's really hard to listen to him. I feel bad. I wish but I'm being honest.
Yeah, maybe the Dillahunty debate would be more your style, because he did catch Jordan Peterson a couple times when Peterson was just kind of off the cuff saying things that like didn't like make any sense, or he wouldn't answer the guy's question. He wouldn't answer any of his questions about like whether or not he believes in God, and then it was just all it was real good. It was real good because it was a more matter of fact kind of way of dealing with Jordan that I don't think he was ready for. And it based on my conversation here with you, I think you'd probably really enjoy listening to that.
Yeah, I always meme with Zizek about the sniffing. Like, regardless of what he's saying, like,
yes,
my man needs some fucking Flonase. Just please stop sniffing.
Exactly, dude. I think he should lose some weight, like to get like and.
So there's an interview about that, and he says his grad students ask it about all the time, and he fucking hates it. And it's
He has
it's a
social
nervous
anxiety.
tick. Yeah, he's social anxiety.
Oh shit. Yeah. I mean, I wish. Yeah. I wish I just have problems. I want to listen to him, and I'm trying to active listen, but
It's not for everybody. Like you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's Zizek in the written form is a nice Zizek.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Pervert's
It
Guide to Philosophy.
is.
yeah.
So I probably should jump because my show's in an hour and I've done no show prep.
oh,
So
nice.
Hey, well, no worries. Thank you for letting
you
us
so
know
much,
that
man.
you need to like take off. And definitely, Dave, again, thank you for being here, kind of just
Oh, yeah.
shooting the breeze and helping
No, it was fun.
form the Chud scoring system.
it was fun. I watched before and I kind of I was like, I like all these people on the panel. So when you asked me to come on, it was obvious. I'd be happy to come on anytime.
Cool.
Thank you, all of you academics and students, for slumming it with a troll this evening. Just real quick, everybody, I'll just say hi in the channel. Click my name, follow my channel.
You know, go ahead and just like give yourself a right proper shout out. You deserve it.
Well, just tonight, I'll shout out my own show tonight. Tonight we do Cults in the Satanic Panic. We do Scientology stuff for the first hour. For the second hour, we go back usually and find some old videos from the Satanic Panic era of the 70s through the early 90s. And then the last hour before I switch over to, I don't know, drinking and making fun of Charlie Kirk or whatever, we watch this old show called Fire by Night, which was a Christian attempt at something like Saturday Night Live, and it's just a tragedy.
God.
It's just a tragedy. I know it's late. Our show starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, and that's midnight for people on the East Coast. But so long as I don't get too drunk and decide to DJ after, the VOD's always there if people want to check it out. And it's our funnest show. My co-host, the Media Wench, is always dressed up a little bit gothy for the show too. And we have sometimes we have guests on who are actually like DJs. DJ Star Noir and DJ Kenzie Fires, who both spin goth music, have both come on to talk about.
Wow.
Sometimes, well, mostly we're making fun of the content, but a lot of times they do talk about some of the prejudice they experienced in the 80s and 90s, being kind of witchy and having people assume they were like satanic and doing, you know, bad things just because of how they dressed. And that's our most fun show. And some weeks it's our most popular one, although if it beats Wednesday, that means the Wednesday show sucked. And that's the one that's more appropriate for what we were talking about here. It's a podcast called The Intellectual Dollar Tree. It's also live on Twitch. Shout out to my co-host HK. I was surprised not to see him in the chat, and I will go about the business of scolding him for that after I get on after I get out of here. Thanks for having me. It was good talking to everybody here, and hopefully y'all will see me in your chat room sometime.
Sounds
You
good.
know,
man.
you'll see me.
Thanks for
Bye,
coming.
everybody.
Peace.
Yep, take it easy, Dave. All right, gentlemen. Is there any like continuation of the discussion? How are we all feeling on time? We could call it here if y'all felt
So-
like it.
I'm more than happy to stay on because there was some Kristen cinema drama that you wanted me to unpack. I'm happy to do that.
Oh
if you
yeah,
want
that's
me to.
I
right.
think
But-
I
I'm
thought
actually
the
gonna go to bed.
list was good because it is like a list of why and how people kind of like are coming to these conversations in bad faith in a way that it isn't really articulated well and people can't really describe. So I appreciate like the people trying to like solidify it a little bit more. So that was good.
Yeah, no, my thinking is sort of like kind of, you know, like a data-driven approach to it. Like, what are the actual like measurable, perceivable things that these people do that people can like pick up on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I'm with you.
Hey, Grumlow, you said you were thinking of hitting the hay. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go get some sleep in just a sec.
All right, well, go ahead and maybe just shout yourself out then. I know probably folks know you, but of course, in
Yeah,
the
you guys
event
know
that
me,
folks that don't.
Grumlow on Twitch, News Politics Reacts, and I think we're gonna dive into some more IDW people tomorrow. But Saturday is the first pilot episode of my game show I'm trying to do, Civic Duty. Our confirmed lineup for the weekend is Kid Notkin, Nikella, I Am Sprouticus, and Tofu Ghost for the pilot episode. So come on by Saturday
damn.
afternoon. Yeah,
That sounds really
I'm
cool.
excited. I'm just wondering if the questions I've lined up are too like
Too easy.
no, too difficult.
Oh.
Yeah, the war crimes section is like you need to know war crimes.
War crime understanders must log on to get any question,
Yeah.
right?
Someone in chat though did give a good suggestion for a additional lifeline where you gamble all of your points, but you have to call your parents on the speakerphone and ask them the question.
Oh, that's good.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Implement that, please.
Oh yeah. The consequence though is your parents might not know the answer and you lose all your points.
Well, exactly.
It's all or nothing.
Watch boomers boom.
Yeah, no,
Classic
I saw the thread about civic duty in the ministry Discord. I will get to that tomorrow since I'm taking a fucking break from lab work tomorrow since somebody literally stole my experiment today. So,
What?
I
Yay
don't
for
know
break, but boo for stealing.
yeah, it's something that nobody like. Things that are stolen like that are only done to like hurt other people. You can't like sell these things for fucking drugs or anything. So it's not like stealing a catalytic converter. It's not like that. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, I'll go to your thread, Gremlo, and if you want to like run any other questions through us, you can put it in there as well. I will certainly input some suggestions as well. I just haven't had the time to get around to it.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you up at some point for biology stuff, just to see if we can get like some very simple questions.
Oh, that's a good one.
Totally.
Yeah, simple, but all of the questions in civic duty are all gotcha questions. I just want to put that forward. They're all like bait questions.
Oh yeah, the first one that really comes to mind is, IQ is a very useful measure to assess someone's intelligence. That's literally just a fucking self-report at that point.
Yeah, true or false?
Oh, we could have some fun with that. I'll be thinking in the next couple of days about that.
No,
yeah.
you need to ask it. IQ is a measure of what?
Yeah, exactly. IQ is a measure
Yeah,
of what?
open and leading. I like that.
Yeah, see what they can surmise. All right, folks. Well, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. Tonight's episode was really fun. I love talking about like right-wing media people and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So tonight's a good episode. But also for everybody in chat, make sure you go show some love to friend of the show, Ministry of Science family, Dean Amber, who is on a panel right now
Yeah.
with a bunch of awesome streamers talking about Roe v. Wade's all-female panel. So definitely go, show your support.
Oh, and before you go, what did you think of Dave?
Dave is cool. I like Dave.
Yeah, he's fucking cool.
Yeah, Dave is one of my like favorite human beings on Twitch, just because he's, I think, unusually genuine. Like you don't really see very many genuine people like Dave, and like you guys. That's why we all get along, because I think we're real. 100 underlined multiple times.
Yep. Oh, Marcus, I'm gonna send you a DM later about the thing I was DMing you. Last night, because other stuff happened.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. I'll have to read it off stream just to make sure. But goddamn, we're gonna have spicy secrets.
yeah. Spicy. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I love you all.
Yeah. Good night,
Adios,
Grublo.
man.
Thanks for showing up, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem.
I should probably take off too. I got dad stuff to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, we hear the little ones making.
Yeah, it's bath time. It's bath time. So, thank you. It was fun. I'm glad my computer didn't shut off. That was cool. I appreciate you, computer. Thank you.
Shout yourself out before you go, Greg.
Yeah, my name is Greg. I have a YouTube channel called The Peer Review. You can get to it by thepeer.review. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, dude, the Haas debate is up to 1,500 views. It's going nuts, dude. Normally
Let's go.
My views are like 10 to 20 maybe at max, so it's like crazy. So I'll have to talk to more. I think that people, I mean, my biggest views are me talking to an anti-vaxxer in Haas. So I think that's just what people like to watch. So
it's content.
Yeah, I got some other conservative people, like some anti-climate change, anti-renewable fuels, like discussions lined up. So I'm gonna try to do that soon. So, but
cool. Well, keep us posted.
Yeah. I got my manuscript due at the end of the month, and then after that, I'm gonna spend more time.
Yeah, you're trucking. You're on the lab grind, the scientist Sigma grind set.
Final year. I'm gonna put in my application to graduate at the end of summer. So.
Oh, wait, you haven't graduated? I thought you. Oh man.
Well, I'm going to
awesome.
graduate.
Yay.
Hopefully this year. Hopefully at the end of summer. So.
Congrats,
Very
man.
exciting.
We'll see. Well, don't congratulate.
big.
Don't say that. No, don't jinx me yet.
not official yet.
Yeah. Don't.
Congratulations on thinking of the idea.
I know,
we
right?
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Exactly. Oosh. All right.
Greg,
Well,
take it easy. Have a
have
good rest
fun.
of your night, my friend.
Adios, everyone. Bye.
All right. Let's see here. Here, actually.
All right, everyone.